all that risk, nigga. How to be a player, nigga, how to get rich, yeah. Pop out right quick, nigga, pop out right quick, boy. You rappers rapping about some shit don't exist, I had to drip up out of schoolwork like gift, I got the F12 with these ain't no ifs, nigga, pop out right quick, boy, pop out right quick, My bitch ass big, damn, on my dick, I had to realize like my dreams ain't no script, nigga. I had to bang it on my life, that's so crazy, nigga.
Nice nigga, so I upgrade my bitch. Saucy nigga, you can tell by my fist. Caution nigga, if you want something like this. Jaws nigga, you ain't really about your chips. I'ma pop out like this. You the first on my list. Goddamn rose gold on my wrist. Goddamn rose gold on my bitch. Pop out like this, nigga, pop out like this. Popped out of my house pool with 100 in my hip. Popped out on some nigga shit, 500 on my kid. Popped out on a renegade like hope, let's get rich. Whole steady jocking when I'm beating down the block. Fresh ass nigga with a dope man knock. First go.
Welcome to the motherfucking News Underground. Big props to your boy, Clutch Cargo, strategy member, and woke patriot. Fearless motherfuckers on Twitch.
Pop out right quick, nigga. Pop out right quick, nigga. Pop out right quick, nigga.
You niggas ballin', nigga, pop out right quick, nigga. Them hoes callin', nigga, pop out right quick, nigga. You niggas losing, nigga, pop out right quick, nigga. Them hoes choosing, nigga, pop out right quick, nigga. God, I gotta take that shit off the stage and shit.
All right. Let's pop out with Aiden Falls. Once again, this is the News Underground. I am Abandoned Nihilism, aka the Harbinger, I guess. Realest motherfucker on Twitch, I'm sure of that. If you came for news, you came to the right place. We got some interesting things. Just real quick, just on a base topic, some climate stuff. A recap from Amy Goodman in her headlines. Just excellent headlines. I'm sorry. Just excellent journalism. Deal with it. We're going to be listening to the spaced out mix. We're going to be jumping into Ukraine first. After that, after the climate and kind of general update. So about 30 minutes. Then we're going to hit Ukraine. Instead of putting them in the back, we're putting them pretty close to the front. We got to talk about them. UK news. We're going to get a UK update. Then we're going to jump into Israel. Everyone wants to talk about Israel, I'm sure. Protests, all that. And then we're going to do a right-wing update if we have time. We'll see. Because if not, fuck them. Fuck the motherfucking right wing. Fuck them. Fuck you. Fuck you, right-wingers. Just about sick of your bullshit. Smiling in my face while you're trying to take my fucking rights away. You think it's cute? You think it's fucking cute? Oh, you think it stops with Trump? You'll get the fucking violence you crave. Hypothetically. Okay. For the leftist protest movement to be successful, we must be peaceful. With that said, violence will be brought upon us, and it must be expected. Take with that what you will. Do not go into a protest thinking that you're safe. Violence will be brought upon you. Here's the thing, though. Like a guppy, like a small fish in the ocean, they can avoid damage the larger they get. The larger this protest movement gets, the harder it is to hurt even one individual. But if the leftist movement continues to be small, the individuals in that leftist movement will see lots of violence. That's how the system works. It's Fart Man. All right, let's get to it. But wasting my time. It's so good, though. You know, it's just the mix is so good. Sorry. Israel and the U.S. over Rafah on arms deliveries. It's a big Christmas. I mean, apparently Reagan did this as well with F-16s when Israel was invading Lebanon, I believe. It's not totally unprecedented. I mean, it'll stop with Trump if you mean it being elections. Democracy. I mean, look, once democracy is gone, truly, once elections become truly irrelevant, the people will have one lever left. Nonviolent direct political action. And it needs to be nonviolent. But if you think violence won't be brought upon us, I'm sorry, that's just not the case if you look at history. So, to the left, I say, fuck up, toughen up, rock up. I know you don't want to hear it. I know you're in your little playpen watching your Netflix. But welcome to the real motherfucking world, because it's going to be knocking on your fucking door. It's going to be looking at your social media presence and asking, are you really American? This shit's as real as it gets. And it's time to buck the fuck up. I'm so sick and tired of the leftists leaving themselves wide open. I'm not saying being overtly offensive, being overtly aggressive. I'm saying be ready to defend yourself. Yeah, no, I mean, it's unbelievable. Mask for mask. It's crazy. It's like, oh, what about the Ukrainians? What about the Ukrainians? And I totally agree with that. I totally believe in Ukraine defending itself. But there's a term for it. There's a term for it. It's called the Palestinian exception. It's like, well, I believe in human rights except Palestine. When you actually drill it down, when you put them in a corner. Woke patriot, I don't want to hear that shit, because it was nonviolent direct political action that changed empires. Okay? It's the only thing that ever fucking works. Come on, man. French Revolution. That wasn't social media. So newspapers helped, I believe, right? All right, let's get to it, guys. Let's get to it. Come on. This is great. This is a great 10 minutes of news. You don't like it? S the D. I don't give a shit.
This news is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Over 100,000 Gazans have fled Rafah as Israel escalates its attacks on the southern city. Deadly aerial attacks on Rafah have targeted residential and public buildings in the tightly packed area. The Israeli army's closure of Rafah's border is preventing food and medical supplies from entering Gaza. Community kitchens there say they do not know how much longer they can keep running.
For the moral high ground to endure, the protest movement needs to be nonviolent. Just because I referenced the French Revolution does not mean I believe we should emulate every aspect of it. That's my disclaimer. Thank you. Let's proceed.
Approximately 80% of people rely on food from charity kitchens as they are unable to provide their own meals and drinks. Their entire dependency lies on these charity kitchens. If these kitchens were...
Woke Patriot is not exactly wrong. Okay, once they remove the democracy, once they remove the levers of actual change, then yeah, nonviolent direct political action, as we've seen in Russia, right, will be less than effective. I can't disagree. Woke Patriot is correct on that.
To close, they would have no means to provide food and drinks. Many individuals have approached us with similar concerns, urging us to attempt to reopen kitchens in their displacement location. We too seek shelter and support.
The blockade is being felt throughout Gaza. This is a Jordanian doctor, Ali Abu Khurma, who has been working at Al-Aqsa Hospital and Deir al-Balah in central Gaza.
There used to be medical aid coming in, and now there's no medical aid. Now we have operations, but we don't have gauze to use. There's nothing to use. We have a simple operation, an urgent one, which is not related to the war, which is appendicitis. We do not have anything to wear. The gown that we wear, we don't have it.
Yeah, Clutch Cargo. Yeah, you might be onto something. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they're going to do anymore with these people. You know, I guess all the possibilities are still on the table because yeah, that would be the time to trigger that mass crisis, you know, at the border that has 5 layers apparently. So you would have to literally attack it with your military to blow that bitch open and then generate some kind of mass chaos for the Palestinians to pour into that border. So maybe that's not as possible as some have predicted. You know, I kind of still like my idea where, you know, you do your little operation in Rafah, right? You pretend to give a shit about civilians. You only kill a few hundred while getting Hamas, whatever that fucking means. You declare victory, and then you give Rafah over to Egypt. Here's a long, hey, and bonus, an extra population of 1.5 million starving people. There you go, Egypt, all yours. We're going to take the rest of this strip, the beach and all that. We're going to take all that stuff. You can go ahead and have Rafah. That's fine. Come on. The settlers will still be pissed. Watch the settlers still be pissed. You know, but, you know, Clutch Cargo brings up a good point, though. Like, you know, if they're giving a shit about, you know, moving these civilians and placating the West on that, where's the generated, you know, because one of the cards on the table was, you know, are they going to somehow force some kind of chaos at the border and force people across it? We took a look at that border. You're going to need to blow that shit up with helicopters or something, a cruise missile or something to get through all 5 layers. You're not going to do that with, you know, it's not going to be October 7th. You're not going to do that with bulldozers and shit. Just not going to happen. So, yeah, Khan Yunis, I think, right? Is it Han Yunis? Yeah, no, I mean, but they're going through the trouble to do that instead of creating that chaos on the border. So, interesting.
We have become part of the people of Gaza. What happens to them happens to us. We will continue. The same way they are being resilient, we will too.
In occupied East Jerusalem, UNRWA, the UN agency for Palestinian refugees, was forced to shut its headquarters after a group of armed Israelis set fire to the compound's perimeter. The European Union condemned the attack, adding, quote, "It is Israel's responsibility to ensure the safety of humanitarian workers. UNRWA is an irreplaceable lifeline to millions in Gaza and the region," they said.
Yeah, and this, you know, and attacking these aid agencies along with the World Central Kitchen, you know, supports that argument that they want to create a famine. They want to create some kind of chaos that will cause Egypt to take in 1.5 million refugees. So it's weird that this has continued, but they might not have full control over it anymore after spreading all the misinformation and hate about UNRWA. By the way, Israel has yet to prove their claims. They've made some claims. They've yet to actually provide any evidence. We covered that, I believe, 2 weeks ago with a full video breaking that down, that there's no evidence so far supporting Israel's claims.
Said. Meanwhile, Gaza's solidarity protests continue on U.S. campuses. At Princeton, 10 faculty members are joining 12 students who've already been on hunger strike for a week.
This is how you do it,
folks.
We'll
be joined by one of the student hunger strikers later in the broadcast.
Get your ass out there.
At the University of Pennsylvania, police and riot gear started arresting students early this morning. Yesterday, Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro called for the Ivy League school to, quote, restore order and safety on campus. After students refused to back down and end their protest until their demands for divestment from Israel were met. At least 6 students have been suspended. Here in New York, at least 11 people were arrested outside the new school, the site of the nation's first faculty encampment. Democracy Now! Was at the new school last night as the arrests were happening. We'll have more on the story after headlines. The Pulitzer Prize-winning author Colson Whitehead has pulled out of his planned commencement speech at UMass Amherst next week after the police arrested over 100 students there. He said, quote, "Calling the cops on peaceful protesters is a shameful act," unquote. In a victory for the protest movement, Sacramento State and California agreed to review its investments so that it's not funding corporations that, quote, profit from genocide, ethnic cleansing, and activities that violate fundamental human rights, unquote. Outside the United States, Dutch riot police bulldozed a protest camp at the University of Amsterdam after students defied orders to dismantle it. In Sweden, thousands of protesters took to the streets of Malmö Thursday, denouncing Israel's participation in the Eurovision Song Contest. Eurovision has rejected mounting demands to ban Israel from the competition over its slaughter in Gaza. Swedish activist Greta Thunberg was among the protesters. She also addressed the growing campus protest movement in the U.S.
How do you say that goddamn name?
She was among the protesters. She also in Gaza. Swedish activist Greta Thunberg was a
Thunberg. You got to sing it. You got to sing. She has a name so beautiful. You got to sing it. Greta Thunberg. That's so beautiful. I love Greta. She's great. She's an absolute inspiration. She's absolutely an inspiration. People that shit on Greta, fuck you.
Among the protesters, she also addressed the growing campus protest movement in the U.S. and around the world.
I think they should be everywhere. And once again, young people are leading the way, showing the world how we should react to this.
Sudan's Rapid Support Forces may have committed genocide as fighters executed thousands of civilians who desperately attempted to flee the West Darfur region last summer. That's according to Human Rights Watch, which collected the testimonies of over 200 witnesses who described children still alive being piled up and shot by RSF fighters.
Sorry, I interrupted that. No, it's legit. You know, this is the kind of ethnic cleansing that, you know, used to happen, you know, kind of World War II and before, where it was just, you know, literally line them up, shot, pile them up, kill them, execution style. Not this, you know, drop, you know, a 1,000-pound bomb on an apartment and kill 300 people, crushing the building on them. It's a different way to kill. It's a different way to do ethnic cleansing. It's interesting, you know, because Israel is kind of using all the latest techniques, all the modern techniques. Controversially, their techniques came up in the fake documentary kind of history book called World War Z, if anyone remembers that. But the technique that was used to defeat the zombies was a technique that was actually emulating an IDF technique that was used against the Palestinians. So interesting stuff. Anyway, rant over. Sorry.
That's according to Human Rights Watch, which collected the testimonies of over 200 witnesses who described children still alive being piled up and shot by RSF fighters as part of an ethnic cleansing campaign against the Masalit people and other non-Arab communities. The UN estimates some 15,000 people may have been killed in El Jenaina last year.
Yeah, and it's not the flavor of religion, it's the religion. You know, and it's interesting, like, if these ridiculous belief systems didn't exist, I wonder what people would use to justify their murder, because I don't think the murder would go away. It's all just a stupid justification to murder, to kill, to eliminate.
Year, while hundreds of thousands were displaced by the violence. A Sudanese woman described to UNICEF how the mother of her 4-year-old niece, Yasmin, was killed as they fled.
Her mother, who was 8 months pregnant, was killed, and she, Yasmin, was left all alone. Some people found her on the road and brought her back here. On the road, we suffered a lot. The Rapid Support Forces killed and wounded so many people. We were living peacefully until the conflict broke out. There was shooting near our home, and we were trapped. When we finally managed to get out, we were beaten and robbed. We came with nothing from Sudan.
Human Rights Watch is demanding the UN and African Union urgently impose an arms embargo on Sudan and deploy security forces to Darfur. In Chad, the interim military ruler, Mohamed Deby, has been declared the winner of the presidential election. General Deby took power after his father, longtime Chadian leader Idriss Deby, was killed by rebel forces in 2021. Mohamed Deby's main rival, Prime Minister Succès Masra, is disputing the results and declared himself the winner just hours before the election results were announced. He called on the citizens of Chad to mobilize calmly. In Argentina, labor unions led a nationwide strike Thursday, bringing transportation.
And, you know, and the West is all, you know, rock hard for regime change and, you know, meddling in other governments, but somehow they let this fucking clownery continue. You know. Why? Because it means penny on the dollar resources. That's why. That's why they let this nonsense continue. They don't actually try to change it. They don't actually try to encourage democracy in these areas. Why? Because they want to fucking exploit it. You know, like a 1600 colonial pirate. Pennies on the dollar. That's why. They don't want to pay market rate. So they don't want a stable government. Seems to me, I mean, like, you know, I mean, I'm sure that's a hypersimplification. Okay, I'm not a fucking genius over here, but I mean, it's just like, I'm sick of this. Welcome back, Leon. Sick of this cycle continuing and the Western world pretending to give a shit about democracy while barely holding on to their own, meddling in all different kinds of countries for all different kinds of reasons. Meanwhile, the coup belt, you know, African countries left to languish. And I'm not saying the CIA should come in here and, like, you know, take over and do all that, but there are other ways to encourage a democracy. There's, you know, there's a million different ways of doing it. And I just don't see it. I just don't see it. Capitalism certainly doesn't like democracy. It likes to pretend it does, doesn't it? You know, capitalism for thee, but not for me, basically. Capitalism for you, but socialism for me, please. Oh, poor us.
In Argentina, labor unions led a nationwide strike Thursday, bringing transportation and many businesses to a standstill. It was the second general strike against far-right President Javier Milei's austerity and deregulation reforms. Milei also devalued the Argentine peso, causing prices to soar even higher and sending the nation's annual inflation rate to around 300%, the highest in the world. Over half the population of Argentina lives in poverty. This is union leader Hector
He literally promised this.
The strike was a success. Success is not a goal in itself, and the success of the workers' strike is not an objective in itself. It is a wake-up call to the authorities to find a course to rectify the social damage they are carrying out with the measures they are taking every day.
2 accidents on Boeing 737 passenger jets took place Thursday. In Senegal, a 737-300 caught fire and skidded off the runway as it was preparing to take off, injuring at least 10 people.
Emergency.
In Turkey, a tire on a Boeing 737-800 aircraft burst upon landing. The 190 people on board were safely evacuated. Just one day earlier, a Boeing 767 FedEx plane landed at Istanbul Airport without its front landing gear deployed. Its nose hitting the runway. The trio of accidents come as another whistleblower, formerly employed by Spirit Aerosystems, Boeing's largest supplier, came forward. Santiago Paredes told reporters he used to regularly find up to 200 defects on fuselages that were being delivered to Boeing.
This is a crisis.
In Florida, the family members of a 23-year-old Air Force member killed by a sheriff's deputy last week are demanding justice. Newly released body camera footage shows Roger Fortson answering the door of his own apartment and immediately being fatally shot by an Okaloosa County officer. His relatives say the deputy arrived at the wrong apartment, which authorities have refuted. This is the family's attorney, Ben Crump.
Just blow him away.
I always wanted to serve in the United States Air Force. And he was living his dream. And by doing so, he was going to
gets murdered in his own country.
Better for his mother and his siblings and his family so they can have a better chance at the American dream.
Absolutely
The
shocking.
Biden administration is preparing new measures that could expedite the deportation of some asylum seekers deemed unlikely to qualify for protection in the early stages of the process.
Yeah,
Immigrant
Leon.
rights advocates warn the
Pretty
new
much.
rules will further erode due process rights for migrants and disproportionately impact black asylum seekers who already face tremendous bias and racism from U.S. officials conducting credible fear interviews. In Virginia,
doesn't
the
work.
Shenandoah County School Board voted to restore the former names of 2 elementary schools to honor Confederate leaders. In 2020, the school board stripped the names of Stonewall Jackson, Robert E. Lee, and Turner Ashby from the school's names
Bringing
amidst
them back?
Black Lives Matter uprising following the police killing of George Floyd. The 5-to-1 vote comes after a campaign
that's
by
huge.
right-wing group Coalition for Better Schools. Ahead of the vote, community members
Strategy,
and
can you get
students
me a
addressed the
YouTube
board,
video?
including 8th grader Aaliyah Ogle.
I'm a black student, and if the names are restored, I would have to represent a man that fought for my ancestors to be slaves. That makes me feel like I'm disrespecting my ancestors and going
this
against
shit
what my
back.
family and I believe.
And the University of Southern California hosted its alternative graduation Thursday evening after calling off its main stage ceremony. USC announced it was not holding its typical commencement
Yeah,
ceremony
we're
this
not-
year
we're not
amidst a
ashamed of
national
it either,
backlash for canceling
son of a
the
bitch.
valedictorian Asna Tabasum's speech after she was subjected to an online hate campaign for expressing solidarity with Palestinians. Asna Tabasum's fellow graduates erupted into cheers as she was acknowledged at Thursday's graduation.
Asna will graduate with a Bachelor of Science in Biomedical Engineering, Molecular and Cellular Engineering, and a minor
Bitch,
in
get the fuck
Resistance to
outta here.
Genocide.
Fuck out of here, bitch.
You may not know this, but Asna is USC's 2024 valedictorian.
Yeah,
You can
strategy.
see
Give me
our
a-
interview
that's
with
huge. Give
Asna
me a YouTube
Tabasum,
video.
the valedictorian at USC, and our coverage of this
Please.
issue at democracynow.org. And those
so
are some of the headlines.
We're gonna actually, there's a 2-minute clip. We're gonna watch the whole thing because it's beautiful, and I'm loving the protesting. I'm loving seeing Gen Z find its moral compass, waking up to the reality of the hypocrisy of American exceptionalism. I love to see it. Okay, is that an AP news clip? So this is huge news. Strategy member over here on top of it. The UN just declared Palestinian statehood as official members of the UN. My God, what a trash website. Here we go. Got a clip.
The General Assembly is now voting on draft resolution A/ES10/L30/Revision
thank
1,
you.
entitled Admission of New Members to the United Nations.
Yeah, boy.
Will all delegations confirm that their votes are accurately reflected on the screen? The voting has been completed.
Oh, Israel. Too little, too late. Israel's almost completed the destruction of Palestine. But this
week, only.
So, and I actually do have a clip relevant to this. Are they going to show him, doing the paper? No. So it's amazing that the AP doesn't report on this. Actually, kind of shameful. But this charlatan gets up there and literally shreds the charter of the UN with a paper shredder. It's absolutely offensive. But what the most important part of this is that the Western world and a good chunk of the world in general that wants to be, buddy with the West, has been waiting for Israel's permission on acknowledging the existence of Palestine. And of course, it's beyond ironic. And for a lot of people who are maybe just stepping their little toesies into this story, it might be strange because we often hear from Israel, the supporters of Israel, Palestine doesn't accept the existence of Israel. And that's a big problem. The Palestinian Authority doesn't accept the existence of Israel. Hamas doesn't accept the existence of Israel, on and on and on. Even though the PLO, the Palestinian, the PA, has in the past negotiated that in good faith. They've put that on the table and said, we're willing to acknowledge your existence if we can stop the carnage and stop the land grabs. Israel found a reason to get out of the negotiations, as they usually do. But the fact is that since the initial invasion into Palestine by Israel, there has never been an acknowledgement of the existence of Palestine. In fact, as Chris Hedges, was it? Christopher Hitchens. I always get those two mixed up. It was Christopher Hitchens, a very young Christopher Hitchens, who pointed out that Israel has yet to actually define the borders of their country, which is a very, very strange and rare thing. They might be the only country that has actually yet to define their official borders, which is a very interesting thing. Welcome back, Carl Toes. Anyway, let's get back to
rights and privileges. As Israelis mourn the Jewish babies burned in the crematoria, you here at the UN usher in the collaborators of the Israeli babies burned on October 7th.
You know, and of course they of course refuse to acknowledge their role in blowback, in the creation of blowback. You know, why in the world would young Palestinians want to, you know, throw their life away with a terrorist organization? Why would they be so angry? Why would they why would they want to do that? You know, he would say, well, they hate Jews, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, sure, some of these people, of course, are fueled by pure hate. Sure, let's just give it to them. But no, a grand majority of these people are fueled by revenge because of the incredible, horrific crimes committed against them, their family members, their friends. And, you know, all we need to do is take a look at YouTube for 5 seconds, type in Gaza, and you can see corpses of people getting pulled out of rubble. And I would like to ask, for those that are currently, you know, folding their hands and disagreeing with me, I would like to ask you, what would you do if a bomb dropped on your family and then the news media said that you were a member of Hamas, you know, because you're a, you know, 30-year-old man or whatever? What would you do? What kind of hatred would you feel? Of course, what I'm saying is that, you know, the violence is not justified, no matter what, because it's heinous, right? So that's why I don't defend Hamas. But 1 + 1 = 2. When you push people into a corner, when you commit violence against people, their natural reaction is to fight back. And it's sometimes it's very interesting to try and judge those people based on how they fight back. With that said, Hamas has been an absolute failure. The Palestinian Authority is beyond corrupt and has been a total failure in helping the Palestinians. So that's what makes this really, really muddy, is that there's no Gandhi in this. You know, Hamas is basically holding the people of the Gaza Strip hostage and using them very cynically for their own power and politics. I mean, the leaders don't even live in Gaza. Just as an example of how cynical the situation is. They haven't had an honest election in 20 years. And a new fact, a new little tidbit that I'll be showing in a clip today, there was apparently inspiring, apparently they were calling him the, not Mahatma Gandhi, that's stuck in my head right now. No, the guy from Africa, the anti-apartheid leader from Africa, they were saying this Palestinian is basically, it's going to come to me. Oh, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Ah, he went to jail. Yeah, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Ah! Someone help. How you doing, Ken and TV? Someone help in the chat. You know who I'm talking about. God, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Look, okay, fine. All I need to do is type in Africa. Mandela, thank you. Thank you. Nelson Mandela. So no, last little tidbit here before I continue. There was this person who was considered the Nelson Mandela of Palestine that has been proudly, that Israel proudly arrested and kept away. He was a vocal critic of Hamas, and people would have voted for him gladly, but Israel got rid of this character immediately. Okay, thank you, everybody.
You know who controls Gaza?
Welcome, Kenan.
You probably have forgotten, because in all of your resolutions here since October 7th, you have failed to even call them out by name.
At the time where the world was calling to flood Gaza with humanitarian aid and calling for a ceasefire, Israel imposed a drought. Its plan has not changed: destroy and displace.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because, I mean, lefties, hippies, you know, for the last fucking, decades, have been pointing this out, that, hey, guys, they're saying one thing. The media is saying one thing about the actions of Israel, but their actions are completely different. Look at what's happening in the West Bank. Look at the blatant disregard for international law in the West Bank. Condemning the violence from Hamas. Well, I mean, you can't, there's nothing to defend with Hamas. There's absolutely nothing to defend with Hamas. So we're going to be getting to Israel and Gaza in a couple hours, Kenan. So come on back then to ask me your bad actor arguments about why it's justified to kill tens of thousands of people, including 15,000 children. Let me guess, Hamas numbers. You don't believe them. Yada, yada. No, come on back in 2 hours when we're discussing it, because we're actually moving on to just real quick a climate update here. Pretty amazing stuff. I have more tornado footage. So let's get this in here. Climate news. Yeah, Woke Patriot. Exactly. Steve the John, thank you for that follow. Palestinians absolutely have a right to defend themselves. But, you know, what Israel wants to say is that Palestine doesn't exist. And I have a great example of this. Oh, that's hyperbolic. It's hyperbolic. No. We literally just saw them spitting in the face of the UN for acknowledging the existence of Palestine. How dare you? How dare you? You support the murder of children by doing this. But no, check out this footage, folks. It's absolutely crazy. This is a car dealership, maybe, or no? This is just somebody's vehicle. I think this is their dash cam. I have two angles of this, just to give you an idea of how destructive. Let me just turn the volume down a bit here. Just how destructive these tornadoes can be. Gregorius Stryker, thank you. I mean, it's just boom, deleted. Oh man, this is getting in the way. Hold on, we'll rewind it here. Thank you for the follow, but my bullshit got in the way. My stupid bullshit. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, Marwan Barghouti, thank you. We're gonna be talking. We're gonna be seeing a clip of somebody of Abby Martin actually talking about him, and pretty interesting. It's a pretty telling video. And boom, it's gone, folks. I don't know if they were a paper manufacturer. Big Mick, we're going to be covering Ukraine in just a few minutes. Stick around. We're going to be covering Ukraine in about 10 minutes or so. Just wanted to show these clips of climate. This is right-wing safe space, right? Yeah, you bet. Fucking tell me all your right-wing views, you fucking fascist. I'll be sure to goddamn flush you, man. Oh, my free speech. Oh, your fucking free speech. Being in my chat is a privilege, not a fucking right. It's ironic. It's beyond ironic to me that right-wingers bitch about free speech, meanwhile supporting a straight-up dictator who promises to crack down on free speech, to remove free speech from the fucking equation. Oh, it's exactly what fascists do. Weaponize free speech until they can take it away. Yeah, bitch, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Go. Put your little tail behind your legs. You're fucking full support of a tyrannical dictator. The fuck out of here. Yeah, we'll see how long you stick around. Why don't you do us all a favor and just say the N-word like I know you want to, and then we can then I can ban you and you just get the fuck out of my life. Yeah, exactly. No, what they love to do, Steve the John, what they love to do is weaponize the language of progressivism. Like weaponize the language of the left. They think it's cute. They think they're clever. They're just total fucking assholes is what they are. I'm sick and tired of coddling them. So check this out. A different angle of this horrific tornado. What they plan to do with the civilians in Gaza. Yeah, I'm not sure, Carl, anymore. I'm really not sure. Yeah, this isn't a right-wing stream, you fucking morons. I put up that tag so I can shit on you. Nothing I love more than shitting on fucking right-wingers. You're pathetic. You're some of the most pathetic human beings on God's green earth. I swear. Cowardly. Bootlicking. crying for authoritarianism like it's going to solve your fucking problems. Right-wingers are disgusting. And I'm sick and tired of what the left being afraid to say it. I have examples. I got fucking receipts. I got receipts. Look, I'll give you a little hint what's in the right-wing section. Let me give you a little hint right here. This is not an anomaly. This is a trend. Quote unquote, why should we stop that? Says Missouri Republicans who oppose the bill to end child marriage. This is who you are. This is who you are. Yeah, no, Hyper, that's just the shit that right-wingers tell themselves when they have a gay cousin or something. You still support Trump. You're still going to get the fucking ban. Don't give me your I'm a centrist bullshit. I can see right through you with your both sides. Yeah, it's both sides, but I basically agree with all the right-wing propaganda. I mean, I totally agree with and totally align with the principles of the right-wing fascists, but I'm still a centrist. No, the fuck you're not. I'm sure you're gonna let us know in the next couple minutes in the chat. Yeah, Hyper, stop the fucking bullshit. We know who you're voting for. We know the fucking game you're playing. You're in politics, bitch. This ain't a motherfucking game, bitch. This is the real world. And I've been through this motherfucking game. I've seen your goddamn techniques. You think you're cute. You're gonna be the dog that catches the tail when you get your authoritarianism installed. When you get what you fucking want. When you get your dictator. You think he's gonna make your life better? You think he's gonna go after all your enemies? You're gonna lose your freedom so quick. You're gonna be looking like a fucking, like a guy that cheated on his wife. He's running out the window with his fucking pants down, running down the street. Going to be stripped from you, gone. Your liberties. And you don't give a shit. This is hilarious. Just wanted to show this to you. Just a bizarre moment that happened in the UN. Watch.
Dôležité je to, že poslednýkrát vystupujem v tomto parlamente a želal by som celému parlamentu, celému svetu, celé Európe, na Ukrajine, Rusom a Ukrajincom. Želal by som im mier a z toho dôvodu dovolte mi vypustiť holubicu mieru na znak.
Oh, EU.
Toho,
thank you, Magna Conda.
A nech táto holubica mieru lieta nad celou Európou. Nech táto holubica mieru nás všetkých spája. Nech táto holubica mieru je signálom toho, že to, čo najviac potrebujeme, je mier.
Thank you.
We need peace. All Europe need peace.
Can you catch it as well?
Can you catch it as well?
55, point of order.
Could you,
Oui, Monsieur le Président, un rappel au règlement, l'utilisation d'un animal mis dans sa banane comme un simple objet. Aujourd'hui, pour faire une déclaration, un message de paix, vous allez faire comment maintenant pour récupérer cet animal, monsieur? Où est le bien-être animal dans le geste qu'a fait cet intervenant? Je trouve ça absolument inacceptable.
Merci, madame.
Oh man, I bet in his head that shit was gonna blow up. I bet in his head, man. I bet that was gonna be the most poignant statement. The most poignant statement. Did I haven't showed this clip yet. Yeah. I'm all over the place right now, sorry. I'll ban the right-wingers faster than you. Look, I'm not interested in entertaining fools. This is not the stream. I'm not the fucking one. I've seen your games. I've seen your arguments. I've seen what you defend. I just showed you a picture of some fat, slobbish, pedophilic Republican representative defending child marriage, and they said nothing. They changed nothing. It's pathetic. Yeah, I don't know why I'd want to stop child marriage. Why would anyone want to do that now? I want to vote for that. That's the right way to vote. That's represents me. I'm going to defend that. Yeah, I don't believe in that nonsense about tornadoes being a response from God. It's totally ridiculous, of course. I do believe that climate change catalyzes existing weather patterns, and that's why we see more tornadoes, more powerful tornadoes. You can't attribute any one climate change incident to global warming. You just need to understand that global warming is changing all climate. What once was an anomalous event is now every couple years, and that will get worse. Look how destructive these things are. What if this shit was happening for months on end, dropping who knows where? Got no control over that shit. You can't nuke this shit. You can't missile this shit. What are you going to do? Could you possibly do some like cloud seeding to, destroy the power of tornadoes? Interesting. Could you? Could you missile that shit? Could you missile a tornado and blow it away? That'd be fucking sweet. Because you can do cloud seeding to make rain. But no, to the people that want to say, "Oh, it's not climate change. Oh, it's not climate change. So it's not global warming. Oh, it's not man-made." We just need to remember that global warming, like I said, is a catalyst. Just look how fucking crazy this is. Just houses getting completely obliterated, man. Jesus. Oh yeah, Hyper will love Davey. Those two will sit around and pretend like they're not libertarians all day. Climate change blows away my greenhouse and my little tomatoes. I'm going to be fucking pissed, and I'm going to go all Greta Thunberg on these GOP fools. There we go. That's the attitude that I want to see. Just complete unhinged anger, okay? We're at that stage, folks. Welcome to the anger stage, okay? We're a fucking dick hairs away from a full-blown dictatorship. And you think this shit ain't real? You think it's going to be the good dictatorship? Pull your head out of your ass if that's what you're thinking. Oh, but Joe Biden's old. Holy shit. We're talking about the difference between our fucking democracy and corporate neoliberalism within the framework of an existing democracy that, yes, can be changed. Planet endures record hot April as scientists warn 2024 could beat heat records for second year in a row. Folks, if you have not invested in some kind of heat pump or AC, do it now. They're going to be sold out. The heat's already hitting. Get your shit now. Don't forget, Facebook Marketplace is a good place to get those. They're probably being scooped up as we speak. But do not be caught up in a situation where you do not have the ability to cool yourself. It's a legitimate worry. You can die. Bake like a little tater tot in your fucking apartment trying to play Call of Duty while you're gasping for air. Okay? You goddamn basement freaks. What the fuck am I doing? No, you're all lovely people. You're all lovely people. But no, this is legitimate. It's really happening. And like I said, global warming, El Nino is also a factor here, but global warming catalyzes this. I think the last expert I showed said about 50% of this could be attributed to global warming. So take that as you want. But we're talking about, we could, and what really bothers me is that the momentum is already happening. And once we implement these changes and actually start, reducing our, our effect on climate, that we're still going to be seeing it ramp up a bit because of this momentum. And it does not change on a dime. You cannot flip a switch. So what my worry is that we're going to be starting successful operations, removing carbon and setting regulations. And we're going to have a lot of bad actors that are like, things are getting worse. Why are things getting worse? Look at all these little edge cases. Like there's an interesting little tidbit about how we removed some kind of chemical from fuel for cargo ships, and that chemical was actually retarding the sun rays from coming in the ocean, was actually helping prevent the warming of the ocean. So now we're seeing a bunch of bad actors say, "Oh, see, all your attempts to save the earth are bullshit. And you're really, our pollution is actually preventing global warming." I'm worried that those bad actors are going to get some kind of foothold and say, "Look, things are getting worse while you're regulating us and costing us a lot of money. There's no point in doing this." That's what I worry about. Then the final story here, a little follow-up. I meant to do this after the headlines here. I'm all mixed up. Sorry about that. But really terrible stuff. Old school ethnic cleansing, not this modern style Israeli ethnic cleansing. Children piled up and shot. New details emerge of ethnic cleansing in Darfur. Where's the West? Where are we? We pretend to give a shit. We do these Oscar-winning documentaries about Rwanda. We care so much about the Ukrainians, as we should. We care so much about Israeli lives. We care so much about lives in general. And then we let these absolute horrors, and Mika Brzezinski can't even find 5 fucking minutes. Morning Joe can't find 5 fucking minutes to talk about this. Can Trump or Republicans be a little considered as dictator? Carl, yes. Project 2025 is the framework, is the blueprint for a dictatorship. Yes. How's Trump a dictator? Isn't that okay? No, we're not getting into this game where we deny the things that we've said and we deny the things that we've seen. We're not getting into this game. Your man literally attempted a fucking insurrection. You literally attempted a coup. You literally tried to change over 100 years of American precedent that was started with George fucking Washington. The peaceful transition of power, and your man spit in the face of that. Shit all over the entire idea of America. So don't give me that, how's Trump a dictator? The motherfucker attempted a fucking coup. Look, my memory's not that great, but it's not that fucking bad. Gruesome new testimony details one of the worst atrocities of the year-long Sudanese civil war. Large-scale massacre of civilians as they desperately tried to flee an ethnic rampage in Darfur last summer. Witnesses described children still alive being, quote, piled up and shot by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, remember that name, as they attempted to escape the regional capital of El Genedia in June last year during a bout of ethnic violence in which thousands of civilians were killed. Disgusting. Now, once again, I don't, just to clarify my comments here, because we have new people in and they didn't hear my statements at the beginning of the stream. I don't think the CIA should come in here, the goddamn military should come in here, but the West and the Western Alliance is not interested in doing anything substantive to change this. As long as at the end of this, violence, they get to still exploit these areas for pennies on the dollar. Yeah, Father Dari, good point. A lot of good people. Together, the 2021 witness statements collated by Human Rights Watch offer the latest evidence that the Arab-led RSF has orchestrated a concentrated 12-month campaign of ethnic cleansing against Sudan's non-Arab Mazlah tribe in West Darfur. And you would think of I thought they hated Arabs and the West, the great devil. It doesn't matter. It's not about the religion. It's about the exploitation. Look back, Zeoduke. Well, Zeoduke, I'm not talking about direct intervention, military, but I'm talking there's a million other ways the West can flex their influence to try and support real democratic change in some of these regions. And it's just not even there. It's fucking crickets. Wow, Big Mick. Yeah. Your group of fascist slobs could absolutely be compared to the patriots who created America when they fought against the fucking British Empire. Yeah, same fucking thing. You do realize that there's footage of you fascists bringing down the American flag and replacing it with the Trump flag. You're aware of that, right, Big Mick? To claim that the people of January 6th were there to defend America is actually disgusting to me. You fucking people paraded the fucking Confederate flag in the halls in one of the most sacred fucking American places, man. You smeared shit on the walls and you waved the Confederate flag. People are traitors. Seditious. It's gross to me that you claim to be that this is patriotism, that this is America, that this is what you're trying to defend. When you're so radically opposed to the fucking founding fathers, man, George Washington would spit in your fucking face. He was considered one of the greatest men in human history because for the first time in history, a king decided to respect the democracy instead of overthrow it. And the people were demanding an emperor. And he said, no, we built this system. We're going to keep it moving. And he handed over power to another guy. Some other he might disagree with. Some other guy, not his fucking son, not a lineage to keep his fucking, empire going. He handed it over to a completely different guy. It was one of the greatest things man has ever done. You understand that? And Donald Trump said, no, not for me. Yeah, not for me. Yeah, not for me. Big Mick over here literally trying to recontextualize the history of George fucking Washington to defend his fucking shitty his shitty diaper wearing dictator. There was a million other like health issues I was going to go through. He looks like he has jaundice. He stands like he has iron rods up his back. You're willing to lie and throw shade at George Washington, who was a slave owner, but what literally set the precedent that created this great country, and you're willing to throw all that away for your diaper wearing dictator. I mean, there's no shame. There's no shame. You literally make my point for me. There's no limit. There's no limit. And once again, let me guess, Big Mick, you claim to be a patriot, right? You claim to be American. Meanwhile, throwing away every single sacred thing America holds. How could you possibly consider yourself American while you throw away every single fucking thing? Anyway, this is horrific. I wanted to read the last part of the article here. Other attacks chronicled by Human Rights Watch include another RSF attack on June 15th of a makeshift medical clinic in El Janina, where 25 injured patients were seeking treatment. Ali, who had been shot in the leg during a previous attack, said, quote, "They started shooting at us and killed everyone except me and a woman who was also wounded. They shot me in the right arm. I slumped over, pretending I was dead." So they just sprayed the room. He's shot up. He's probably on a gurney. They just sprayed the room. He got hit in the arm, fell over. They presumed him for dead. Surrounded by corpses for 10 hours, so he's just bleeding out. Ali and the woman stayed still as the RSF continued their assault in the city. At about 5 p.m., 7 armed men in uniform came into the clinic, beating him and using racial slurs. So this motherfucker has a shot-up leg, shot-up arm. Then these dudes come back in, and they start beating him and saying... One said, "We won't kill you. We want to torture you." Racial slur. Ali was rescued by his family hours later after the gunman left the clinic. Amazing that they left him alive, probably so he could recount their tales of terror. All right, Big Mick. You've made it clear. You want to destroy America. You don't believe in America. You don't believe in the founding fathers. You don't believe in the Constitution. It's all got to go away. We get it. You want to destroy America. You are our enemy. We understand that. You are democracy's enemy. We get it. Moving on. I'm going to do everything in my power to defeat you politically. And then once you bring that shit into the streets, I'm going to do everything I can to defeat you there. Because I believe in liberty, I believe in democracy, I believe in equity, I believe in equality, and I will die for that shit. So I hope you're ready to bring that same energy. Shitting on George Washington. You better be ready to bring that shit to the streets, dude. We get it. You want to destroy America. You want to make my life worse. You want to strip me of my liberty. I get that. We get it. I'll see you in the streets. Fuck you. Moving over to Ukraine. See, I mean, they tell us who they are. They tell us who they are. I'm over here defending George Washington and democracy and the Constitution. This guy's coming up, slave owners. The Constitution was written by the French. And, same thing we heard. Remember when we were hearing 5 years ago? When we would say, this is a democracy, and they would say, oh, technically it's a constitutional republic. You mean it's a republic? We're not really a democracy. We're really technically a republic. Thank you, Kissing Gonzo. Remember that shit? Remember hearing that? A nice little prelude to what we're seeing now. Full-blown justification for authoritarian dictatorship. We don't want the Constitution. We don't really want... Oh, George Washington really wasn't that great. Yeah, I get it though. Slave owner, it's a mixed bag. But the motherfucker set a precedent that that is hard to even follow even now. I just literally showed in Chad, same shit. Guy gets it, democratically gets voted in. Now I'm not leaving. Oh, I'm changing the rules. I'm not leaving. Shameless, and they will destroy us. They will destroy our liberties. And you think it's a joke? You think it's a joke until you're working for pennies on the dollar and your fucking kid's hungry and you got house payments and those assholes are letting those oligarchs do whatever the fuck they want to you. You can't afford gas. You can't afford food. You can't afford shelter. You're in the streets. The cops are bashing your head. Tell me your liberties aren't gone and tell me that isn't the path of the dictatorship. It's exactly what happens when dictatorships take control of democracies. Tell me I'm wrong, you fucking shills. Oh, it's the good dictatorship, is it? This vain, shameless, jaundiced-looking, pathetic, uninformed man-child is supposed to be the good dictator? Fuck you. They fight for it until it works against them. 100%. Science politically 100%. They're gonna, like I said before, they're gonna be the dog that catches the tail. They have no idea the monster that they are fucking putting in power, the precedent that they're setting. Yeah, Carl, it shouldn't, but welcome to the real world. Moving over to Ukraine, finally. Pathetic, absolutely pathetic. This, look, we are on the verge of showing Russia, pushing it back to its borders and showing Russia and the Russian people that we will not stand, the West, the rest of the world, really, who stands up with democracy, will not stand for this. Blatant encroachment on the respect for human rights and the respect for a country's autonomy. And yes, I'm fully aware of the blatant hypocrisy of the United States defending Ukraine's democracy while shitting on Palestine's. We talk about it. And we're not afraid to. This is the news underground, not the bitch underground. Russia Victory Day Parade. One tank on display as Vladimir Putin says country's going through a difficult period. And changing that status, it's complicated. On the 9th of May every year, Russia celebrates Victory Day, putting on a large parade in honor of the country's victory over Nazi Germany. I mean, the one that the West helped. Let's not forget, we were shipping weapons and supplies to Russia to help it through that. Not that it wasn't a brave fight against fascism. that Russia switched sides on. Let's not forget who started on what side. Hilarious. While they spread a kind of, German, old school fascist style, aggression. I don't like the Putin-Hitler comparisons, but there's some comparisons to be made there. While we do Nazi-style aggression, we're going to honor our fight against fascist aggression. Victory over Nazi Germany 79 years ago. Wow, was it really only that 7? Wow. And what remains an important symbol of the country's national identity. See the tank. Let's see it. Which one was it? Let's see if you bright-eyed military experts can tell me what kind of tank. Which one is this? A T? Probably be a T-90-91, right? They'd probably want to put out a nice one. I'd say communism was worth. Yeah, okay, sure. All right, what? That is not a new one. What is that, dude? That's like a T-70 something or other, isn't it? Is that a T-60? T-34? That's World War II? No shit! Oh, that's embarrassing. Oh, that's embarrassing. T-34-85 specifically. I love you guys. You guys are great. Welcome back, Tisreal. Welcome back, Davey. Love you military heads in the chat there telling me exactly Got the serial number? You're not true military guys if you can't give me the serial number. They got that shit, by the way. They got that shit, by the way. They always lead the parade with the old one. The old thing. Yeah. And like, hey, back in the day, this was top of the line, dude. The Russian tanks were probably not as good technically as the German ones, but they could hold their own. Looks 20 years older. Russia for real break through the Kharkiv border today. Russia will break through the Kharkiv border today. Yeah, they did. Yeah, we're gonna be covering the bad news. Thought I'd get this one out of the way. Utox. It's called good living. Getting that adrenochrome. No, I'm playing. This music's too good for this piece of shit, so we're just gonna move on there. I just thought I'd report on that. One fucking tank. Difficult times. Ooh, difficult period. Interesting thing here from Chem Goblin. Thank you, Chem Goblin. Hope you're doing all right. You've been a little quiet in the Discord. Hopefully you're just doing your own thing. But these two links here, Chem Goblin just trying to point out that there seems to be some misinformation. Yeah, 100% woke patriot. I totally agree with that statement. But there seems to be some misinformation about France joining Ukraine, and then we got TVP World, which is like you know what I mean, like they, right-wing Polish news network. Perfectly okay if you want to watch Russian tanks blow up. You want to watch a compilation of Russian shit, Russian drones flying into Russian tanks. That's one thing, but they definitely have an agenda. TVP World. Oh, that's from Strategy. Thank you, Strategy. They were for me. Oh, thank you, Strategy. I was thinking of different links then. I don't know. I'm sorry. Chem Goblin, he put a few links in there. I got them in here somewhere. I thought I did. But anyway, there seems to be some misinformation about France joining it. France actually, no, we're not actually sending soldiers. Putin has again denied in response to a new, quote-unquote, disinformation campaign. Yeah, Zeo Duke. Yeah, for sure. Ukraine, the attack for Kharkiv will not achieve anything. You will lose people. Russia, my goals are beyond your understanding. I mean, it does seem they Tisreal, I will say this for Russia. Oh, hey, Chem Goblin, welcome back. I will say this for Russia. They do a good job of seeming like this will never end. Because that's how you break people. You make it seem like this hell is just never going to end. And they put up a good front. But the facade is crumbling. Gazprom is losing money. Jumbo Saucy, thank you for that follow. They post a whole block of them because I was seeing contradicting claims everywhere. So, I'm not going to dig into this right now, but just heads up, there's a lot of misinformation going around. It doesn't right now, as far as I can tell. France is not sending French troops to the front line, and that's actually a shame because that's what I want to see. Let's cut the bullshit. And you know, and once again, hate to do it, but I do agree with Davey on this one. You know, if the West is going to help, what they need to do is you know, set up, replace the soldiers that are on the front line on the north of Ukraine. Let those Ukrainians join the battle. And let me tell you something. The word, what if Russia? Russia isn't going to do shit. You put those troops on the north, he's not firing a fucking shot. He's not doing it. Check his ass. And that's what I believe the West should be doing with Russia. Because let me tell you, if the shoe was on the other foot, oh boy. Do you imagine if Putin had all the tools that the United States and the West has at his disposal to influence power, to escalate without truly escalating? Welcome back, Ribbons. And yes, I do believe the West should be escalating. But without chemical weapons, without nukes, of course. We got a lot more tools in the toolbox. Okay? And we're just sitting on them. This was the one from you, Chem Goblin. In Kosovo, the details of the package of the military aid to Ukraine were revealed. Chem Goblin pointing out in the Discord that Ukraine hasn't even acknowledged Kosovo as a country. And they're hooking up Ukraine with weapons, doing what they can. They see the threat of Russia. Hyper, the reason why Russia invaded Ukraine is that Ukraine was becoming a successful democracy that was soon to join NATO. They were going to lose their opportunity to return Ukraine and Crimea into their fold. Putin has this special version of history, and he would like to restore it. Some kind of amalgamation of the Russian Empire and the Soviet Union, and he wants to rebuild that before he dies. That's the best estimate that we've come up with after watching Vlad Bexler and other experts talk about Putin's motivations. There's a new post-ironic meme in Russia that I love. It's based on an old caricature cartoon where a Russian bear is playing cards with Uncle Sam. This version of it displays the bear sitting on a bottle screaming "goal," and Uncle Sam responding, "Are you insane? We're playing cards." Perfectly represents what Russia is doing right now. Yeah, so they're playing by their own set of rules and by their definition winning. Meanwhile, they're losing the game that's in front of them. And, you know, thank goodness for this aid package coming in. Right now we're seeing the momentum on Russia's side because this aid has yet to fully reach the front lines. And of course, you know, Ukraine having barely enough time, you know, the emergency shipment of ammo that got, you know, the Patriots that got there, the ATACMS, the regular ammo for the mortars, the 155 millimeter shells, yada yada. That stuff barely got there in time for them to respond to what is a major Russian offensive right now. Ukraine losing ground makes perfect sense. It would be troubling if Ukraine was losing hundreds and hundreds of kilometers, if it was a blitzkrieg of unstoppable proportions. That is not what's happening. Russia is, in fact, losing hundreds of soldiers for every foot that they take. It's unbelievable the sacrifice being made here. You know, if this was happening in America, if this was American soldiers dying, Joe Scarborough would be breaking rules and showing. I mean, it would just be unprecedented. People would be rocked and shocked at the disregard of American lives. Being put on display for the meager amount of gains. You know, we're talking hamburger hills happening every single day for Russia. Little gains here and there, and they are pretty little compared to the grand scope of what Russia needs to take to really, you know, expand this into a full. Now, with that said, what's happening, I think, in the middle of Ukraine is quite essential. They are trying to take an essential town that will lead to another bigger town. So it's not like they're completely wasting their time and resources, but there's several fronts that are active that it doesn't make a lot of sense, but they are diverting Ukrainian resources to those areas. But anyway, thank you, Chem Goblin, for this, pointing out that even though Ukraine hasn't officially recognized Kosovo, which I'm not sure the history of that, why that is, Kosovo is sending weapons packages over to Ukraine, so that's great. Thank you, Kosovo. Partially recognized Kosovo will transfer ammunition for 122 millimeter, 60 millimeter, and 81 millimeter mortars to Ukraine. Absolutely essential. 100%. That's the, you know, bread and butter of the everyday frontline fight is this style of ammunition. So excellent. That's great news. This was announced at a meeting with Ukrainian journalists in Pristina by the Minister of Defense in Kosovo, EU Macedonzi. I said that perfectly. Answering Haramski's questions about aid packages. That's the name of the website that I can't even pronounce. Quote, I won't go into the details, but I can say that these are 122 millimeter, 60 millimeter, 81 millimeter mortar shells, military trucks for transporting personnel and weapons, armored vehicles, tactical vehicles to support units in Ukraine, and the transport and operational aspect, said the minister. So, I mean, literally like bread and butter day-to-day shit that these frontline guys need, you know, and that's actually really great. It's not, I'm sending some boots, I'm sending some, I don't know, some rusty-ass AKs or some shit I got in a warehouse somewhere. No, this is like literally the lifeblood of the front line, so that's really great news. Thank you, Chem Goblin, for that update. So I thought I'd show this here. This is a gun cipher from the video game Metal Gear Solid 2. A masterpiece, of course. They're tough guys. Talk about Ukrainian soldiers? Yeah, you're fucking right. I wanted to show this here because when Hideo Kojima created this concept here for, you know, the cipher of the UAV here and the gun cipher, this shit was science fiction. It was totally bananas, right? It's completely unrealistic. Yeah, Ukrainian soldiers. Yeah, some of the toughest motherfuckers on planet Earth. I've never seen an army fight like the Ukrainian army. Not since the amazing armies of all the various countries that participated in World War II, basically, in my opinion. Have I seen such bravery on the front lines? I'm talking about 40-year-plus-year-old men holding back hundreds of Russians, you know, like a small squad, you know, 10 or 20 of these 40-year-old hard-ass veterans holding back hundreds of Russians for months at a time, in some cases. Strategy over here giving us a history lesson about Kosovo and their relationship with Ukraine, maybe why that they're not recognized. Real quick, I'll read this. The history of Kosovo is complex, but it boils down to Kosovo not being acknowledged as a thing that Serbia has been enforcing because it used to be their own territory that fought for independence. Interesting. So some complication there. Which is when Serbia supports Russia. I can see them countering it out of spite and out of realization that Russia will help Serbia get them back. So is it possible that this lack of recognition of Kosovo is one of those kind of old school or kind of legacy elements of the Russia-controlled Ukrainian government? Possibly strategy? Anyway, back to this. This is a video game item called a gun cipher, and this is the camera cipher. Thank you, strategy. Well, we got the normal cipher, gun cipher. If you've played Metal Gear Solid 2, the Phantom Liberty, what the fuck is it called? You know what I'm talking about. It's got Liberty in the name. It's a fucking masterpiece. I just wanted to stress, this shit was science fiction. So now we're going to watch this video from reporting from Ukraine all about how the Ukrainians are effectively using gun ciphers, basically. Guns mounted to drones. Drone mounted guns? Drone mounted guns? Is that it? But honest to God, gun ciphers being used on the front line in Ukraine. Absolutely bananas. And Hideo Kojima over here. God, he's a genius. I love Hideo so much. Hideo, call me back, please.
Today there are a lot of updates from the Avdiivka direction. Here Russians have paid a heavy toll in their attempts to cross the fields in front of Umansky. After breaking through the Ukrainian defenses in the north and taking control over the settlement of Okarotine, Russians have slowly diverted their offensive actions towards their objectives in the north. This change of direction confused many analysts, as Russians had initially focused on the Ukrainian defenses to the west. The ultimate Russian goal to the west is to take control over Pokrovsk, which serves as the main Ukrainian headquarters in this direction. However, if we look at the developments in the fields in front of Umansk, we can better understand how the Russians have been forced to deprioritize their ambitious goal of taking Pokrovsk. As you may remember, Russians had conducted a large wave of attacks in the fields between Umansk and Tonenki. Ultimately, these attacks failed due to a multitude of reasons. Firstly, if we look at the geography of the region, we can see that Russian attacks through these fields are funneled together by the rivers to the north and south. Additionally, the river branch stretching through the fields condenses the funnel even further. This forces any Russian attack to follow a predictable path, making them far more manageable for Ukrainian defenders, as they can open fire on them from multiple directions. Secondly, this direction was being defended by the Ukrainian 25th Airborne
Brigade. That makes more sense why Kosovo would be handing Ukraine weapons, right? Because they want to legitimize their existence. They want to make friends on the West. So that makes perfect sense why they would be feeling so generous. Very interesting. Once again, though, you know, the power of the West, the power of of geopolitics, kind of superseding logic sometimes. You know, there's like handing over weapons to an entity that doesn't even acknowledge its existence. You know, smooth things over. That will definitely help in the negotiations whenever those come along. Whenever that is about recognizing Kosovo. That'll help.
Secondly, this direction was being defended by the Ukrainian 25th Airborne Brigade and the 53rd Mechanized Brigade. Both consist of experienced and well-equipped soldiers who are more than capable of fending off Russian attacks.
Wow. Wow, they got a fucking funnel, man. Imagine being on this front line. You know damn well where these guys are going to be coming from. You're set up, you're equipped, you got your ammo, you're dug in, and they're coming. My God. My God. I hope you brought diapers. I'd need them. I need a fresh set of Pampers every month. Whole crate of them. Airdrop those bitches. I mean, could you imagine, dude? How would you even sleep? How do you even sleep? What do you catch 30-second micro naps in between panic attacks? It's a total fucking kill funnel here, dude. You got water on either side. You know exactly where these guys are coming. You're dug in, and here they come. Wow.
A Ukrainian military blogger stated that Ukrainian defenders had established well-prepared positions, utilizing the terrain to draw Russian assault groups into kill zones before finishing them off with anti-tank mines,
and they know they're gonna die,
artillery,
and they get sent in
FPV
anyway.
drones. The Ukrainian blogger also stated that Russian assault groups lacked tactics in their attempted breakthroughs, being unprepared to dynamically face the Ukrainian defense.
I know they rotate, not enough.
After these failed assault waves, Ukrainian military bloggers shared satellite images showcasing the huge Russian losses in the fields in front of Tonenki. The military bloggers state that the fields in front of Tonenka had turned into a graveyard of Russian armored vehicles. The images showed the disabled and destroyed rigs of 77 Russian armored vehicles to only 5 Ukrainian vehicles.
Look, if any army in World War II was posting up these kind of numbers, that shit was over. That it's like, okay, oh, you know, do we surrender now, or do we, you know, when do we get to the surrender? Do you understand how insane this is? Yeah, Tisrio. 77-5. I can't stress it. Okay, look, man, I can't stress how, like, usually it's usually a way more. It's like, but we haven't seen, you know, it's been a while since we've seen legitimate tank battles by 2 legitimate armies here. But these numbers are bananas, man. How much more surplus do they have? You can't have that much. I don't know how much Cold War surplus you got, man. I know he's got warehouses just filled with these things, but he's got to be running out by, you know? Come on. You can't sustain. I don't care how many tank factories you have. I don't care what kind of setup you have. Unless you got some kind of Star Trek style replicators, man, you can't sustain attacks with these kind of losses.
The military bloggers also stated that the satellite images only show the most intense and concentrated clashes between Russian and Ukrainian units. Russian forces had also conducted numerous attacks with smaller assault groups consisting of 1 or 2 armored vehicles at a time, adding these Russian losses to the total amounts to over 100 Russian losses in tanks and armored vehicles
and they just
alone.
Keep coming.
After these failed initial attacks, a Russian officer stated that Russian forces would ultimately be able to overload the Ukrainian defenses if they only sent forward more waves of armored assaults. As it turns out, the Russian commanders followed his advice and immediately started a month-long operation.
Hey, I'll keep shouting in the void. You keep licking those fucking boots like a pathetic cuck. Okay? You tell me which one's doing more. Pathetic.
Operation to cross the fields. A Ukrainian soldier active in the area stated that throughout this operation, Russians conducted constant artillery preparations on Ukrainian positions with artillery, multiple rocket launch systems, and airstrikes with FAB glide bombs and CAB-guided munitions. In response, Ukrainian drone operators undermined Russian close-fire support capabilities by targeting Russian mortar emplacements with FPV drones. Russian forces attempted to hide these emplacements in the settlement of Tonenki. Still, they were constantly spotted, as the intensity of fighting here had left the settlement in ruins, leaving little cover for the Russian mortar teams or infantry. Over the next 2 weeks, Russians continued their mechanized assaults through the fields. Ukrainian forces released a multitude of combat footage showing how they repelled or destroyed these Russian attacks with guided anti-tank missiles.
That's
and
basically
FPV
what the deep state map
drones.
does for you.
As the month-long battle went on, and Russian armor losses kept mounting, Russian forces started decreasing the armored support of their infantry fighting in the fields. Ukrainian fighters in the area stated that Russians started using tanks more sparingly and from increasingly larger ranges as indirect fire platforms.
About all they're good for.
They also added that Russians had begun relying on all-terrain vehicles, buggies, and off-road motorcycles to reinforce their assault groups in the fields. Geolocated footage confirms this, as Ukrainian drone operators shared footage of them destroying numerous unarmored transports with FPV kamikaze drones. As Russian infantry in the fields lost their armored support, a Ukrainian military blogger stated that the Russian assaults had devolved into mass assaults of infantry with little armored support. To combat this increased concentration of infantry, Ukrainians began experimenting with new variants of drone warfare.
So they lose.
Ukrainians mounted their heavy octocopter drones with machine
more.
guns to strafe Russian infantry assaults and fire into the trenches from above.
That.
The operators of this drone also stated that Russians did not even try to shoot down these drones, likely in shock and understandable fear of this new tactic. At the moment, the biggest issue that these drones deal with is the recoil. Some Ukrainian sources mentioned that certain drone teams are already developing and testing various stabilization systems. If the issue is fixed, the drones will become far deadlier than ever before. Right now, Ukrainians are using 2 types of drones against the Russian infantry: grenade-dropping drones and kamikaze drones. Dropping grenades accurately is extremely difficult, especially if the infantry is moving, or if the infantry has electronic warfare kits that necessitate operating from a much higher altitude.
It doesn't matter if you're going to pinpoint target it, hit your target, because I mean, like, look at, we saw the footage here. You know, the kickback is totally bananas. It's not. But you can get an angle inside of a trench that you just can't get from 100 fucking feet away, right?
Right now,
so even if you're not accurate,
develop recoil. Shoot down these drones.
So even if you're not accurate, the goddamn thing's kicking like a mule.
Tactic. At the moment,
you're
the
able
biggest
to get
issue
in at
that
an
these
angle
drones
that,
deal
that is just
that necessitates. The kamikaze drones, in turn, can only be used once. The development of gun mounts, combined with thermal vision and machine aiming, will change the setting completely.
I agree.
Overall, the heavy Russian losses in armor and infantry, with little territorial gains to show for it, likely deprioritized this direction in favor of Russian objectives to the north. However, Russians did not decide to conserve their manpower and equipment by stopping these attacks. Instead, they simply stopped reinforcing these assault groups with armored support. This forced Russian assault groups to use higher concentrations of infantry along with unarmored transport vehicles, which Ukrainians exploited by testing a new and deadly drone variant.
So they ran out
Lastly,
of
when it comes to
tanks,
the second
send
wave
more
of the
meat.
massive cyber attack on the reporting from Ukraine channels,
get 'em.
it seems like the scale of the attack is bigger than last time, because I received an email from the Focal Point Ukraine channel, who is producing similar tactical updates, saying that 4 of
He's
his
still having
channels
channel
were deleted,
issues. Let's listen.
with only the Italian one still standing. As YouTube support still has not replied to my requests,
Devin.
I would like to ask everyone to make a similar to this post on Twitter to help me restore the channels. You can simply find me on Twitter, copy the text of my latest tweet, and
right.
post it yourself.
Let's go. So, let's go ahead and
the
do
cyber
this. Look, if you got a Twitter account, folks, take the time to do it. Let's check him out. He's on the Twitters. Let's help him out. Here we go. Here's the link right here, folks. Let's help this guy out. He's given us free information constantly, reporting from Ukraine. Doesn't have, it pretty scientific, pretty data driven. You got to respect that. So please check it out. Give the link right here in the chat. Post this up, retweet it, repost it. Right? Because look, it's the YouTube will often completely ignore their internal systems. But if you raise a big enough stink on Twitter or Instagram, some other social media, you can actually get Twitter or you can actually get YouTube to respond internally when bad actors are flagging your account, and it happens to me all the time. Do people come in here like the guy that he made me say the knee thing, right? Growing knees, if you know what I mean. He made me say that, and the idea is to get me to say something really horrible or clip me out of context and report me and weaponize these reporting systems. It happens to lefties. Right wing loves to weaponize it. Of course, they're hypocrites. They don't care. So help out reporting from Ukraine. He does a really great job. Like I said, I really enjoy his journalism, and he works really hard. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to reporting from Ukraine, and also follow up on that Twitter. Please help him out if you got a Twitter account. Just give it a repost. Come on, folks. Give it a like. Give it a repost. Bump him up. 56 That's pathetic. That's pathetic. Maybe that's just because no one really uses Twitter anymore. All right. Moving on here. We got some UK news. Really spicy shit happening in the UK. The election showing the dominance of the Labour Party, the upcoming dominance. That's Bonique clip with Bonique. Act up, you can get smashed up. Fuck Putin apologists, man. Get the fuck out my chat, bitch. Does Labor have a charismatic leader? No. No. Keir Starmer? No, not so much. No, so this is a post by Leon. I'm not sure if this is just a picture Leon took outside, but we got Antifa out here represented. Once again, the only thing with Antifa that I disagree with is the property damage. I totally respect Antifa when they put their body in front of real fascists who actually intend to do harm against left-wing protesters. So I just wanted to show one of their clips here. Refugees didn't take away affordable housing. Rich landlords and greedy politicians did, and that's 100% fact. The small boats, the people on the boats, they're They're not causing the housing crisis. They're not the reason why food is more expensive in the grocery store and why you have to pay out the nose to fill your car with gas, even though we're we're making all these allegiances and alliances of all these nasty characters to get the oil, and yet we got to pay out the ass for it still. Pretty interesting. David Cameron here showing himself to be a bit of a coward. David Cameron says UK will not withhold arms sales to Israel. Pretty pathetic. Even Joe Biden now coming out here saying, yeah, we've had enough. We're gonna give that a pause if they continue with Rafah. Of course, I don't really believe Joe Biden's really gonna hold himself to it. Does Canadian news follow British politics more than in America? Not really. Not really. I mean, I will say though that there are some places in Canada where it's like the BBC and like American PBS style public broadcasting, NPR, that kind of stuff is kind of like the only thing on the radio. But I went to Victoria recently, and some of the only stuff I could actually hear was NPR, American NPR. In Victoria, in some of the more remote areas in Victoria, all I could listen to was American NPR. It wasn't even Canadian, CBC or anything. But I do see, on TV. I don't get Canadian cable. I don't buy that shit. But I do steal. Stuff, and I do think the BBC is on a lot of Canadian packages, things like that. Welcome back, Smash. But yeah, David Cameron here being a total fucking coward, saying he's not going to withhold arms sales to Israel. Meanwhile, he's doing the the boogaloo over here, the shimmy, the shake. His representatives for his. Wait a minute. Yeah. Wait, this is David Cameron. He's not a. What am I talking about? I always get these guys mixed up. He's not part of the Labor. David Cameron. He's part of the Tory government, who's currently in charge. Oh my God, David Cameron has said the UK will not be withholding arms sales to Israel, saying its position is not comparable with that of the US, which has paused the delivery of weapon shipments since the UK is not the large state-to-state arms supplier to Israel. Foreign Secretary added that the UK did not support a large-scale invasion of Rafah unless it saw a plan that protects civilians, a position that the UK has repeated in the past month. So it's interesting. They're like, a ceasefire now. But we're still going to give you weapons, even after Uncle Sam pulls back. Yeah, DJ Shay. The moment your party leaders are even more indecisive, politicians. Yeah, exactly. Strategy is pretty pathetic. Foreign Office officials said they had no view as to whether Hamas or Israel were closer to the UK position of the two-stage ceasefire, stating with a humanitarian ceasefire and leading to a permanent secession. I don't. Why are there so many entities that are pretending like Hamas wasn't very clear about what it agreed to? Look, I know Al Jazeera is propagandistic. They have a side. It's very obvious when you watch it. But it's like a 3-stage thing. They went down the stages, the demands that are part of the stage. There was no confusion on that day about what Hamas signed. And it was basically the only thing that was like questionable was the ceasefire bit, but they were basically saying, yeah, we agree to all of it except for the what they wanted was like a measured, like a kind of opaque, not a direct call for a ceasefire, but something that would eventually turn into a ceasefire, and kind of like leaving that open so that both sides can basically tell their sides that they're not giving up the fight. Meanwhile, allowing both sides to follow the rules leading into stage 2, which would lead to more hostages being released. But like, we saw the plan. I don't understand why we're seeing this performative kind of, we don't know. We don't even know what's going on. We don't even know what they agreed to. Yes, we do. They pointed out that Israel claimed the offer accepted by Hamas on Sunday differed from the one Israel had been prepared to accept the week before. So I've also shown experts who have pointed out that this is one way that Israel loves to destroy negotiations. They literally, and Netanyahu is famous for this. He brags about his ability to destroy the two-state solution negotiation. But they They take every little thing and they make every little thing life and death. And you know, they slow it down and make any kind of discussion nearly impossible. Yeah, DJ Shea, thank you for pointing out that there was a, you know, that Israel did have an opportunity to have a good majority of these hostages released before they, I mean, who knows how many of them got killed in the eradication of the northern part of Gaza there and the middle part there. Asked me, they did show Israel's true colors of the West. They knew Israel was going to continue not to take it. Yeah, strategy. I think that's a good call. Definitely some real politique happening. Britain isn't that good at playing the quote unquote the U.S. Huh? What? But anyway, yeah, David Cameron here, kind of being a coward, especially after the big dog is not doing it. It's a perfect opportunity, and God knows the Tories need it. They'd use all the support they could get. This would actually help them electorally. But no, they continue to work their own self-interests, you know, to work against their own self-interests, really, with their fealty to Israel. And once again, I want to point this out. All this sacrifice, all this fealty that the West, you know, pays to Israel. Do we honestly think Israel, whenever, you know, the chips come in, we got to cash these chips in. Oh, we finally need you. We're going to war with Iran. We're going to need you to be on the front lines. Do we honestly think the right wing, dishonest, shameless, the right-wing Israeli government is going to come back us up? Maybe for Iran, but you know what I mean? Like, you know, anything. I mean, maybe Iran's not a good example because we do see Ben Gvir and Bibi Netanyahu kind of interested in a rising conflict with Iran, obviously for Bibi's political, you know, chances. But you know what I mean? Like, when push comes to shove, when we actually have to cash these chips in, is Israel really going to have our back, ride or die? Yeah, DJ Shea, we reported on that. Yeah, you're pretty informed. Love to see it. Love to see that. Another link here from Leon. Thank you, Leon. I don't know if you're still here, but thank you for these links in the Discord. Very informative. Leon is, of course, following the 3-step program. I'm constantly talking about, you know, becoming politically active, becoming a political activist, has started to, you know, work within these systems and has started to change them from within. Over here showing apparently some kind of 30-point lead for Labor, +4. Yeah, over the conservatives here. You know, I'm hesitant to use the language of like wipeout, total apocalypse, total wipeout, Armageddon, right? But we're getting really close to that. These numbers are bananas, and they do keep going up with the Tories shooting themselves in the foot. Yeah, strategy, 100%. Plus and minus are they changed? Are the change since the last poll? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I understand that part. Thank you. But no, I mean 48% to 18% there, and those numbers keep going up. Yeah, that Tony Blair. I mean, we have a similar problem with blue dog Democrats here in the United States. You know, these so-called lefties that are basically right-wingers, except for a few social issues. So I wanted to show this here. I don't know if I have the full 12 minutes here. This was another link posted by Leon. Thanks again, Leon, for all these links, because these were great. But I showed this guy a couple months ago when he made a prediction about Keir Starmer, saying that he is a hidden radical. Now, I believe this guy is kind of a right-leaning dude, but he's a British-style right-leaning dude, which means he's not a full-blown fascist. Like what we have in the United States. You know, if you have a right-leaning political pundit like Mike Levin, Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, the very good chance that they're a full-blown right-wing fascist, and in some cases full-blown, racist. Talking about the Great Replacement theory, you know, with Tucker Carlson there. Yeah, he's on the right, akin to Biden. But he said something very interesting, and I think this is a follow-up to that a little bit. He said that, you know, he thinks Keir Starmer is pretending to be more of a moderate, center of the road, kind of not talking about Brexit, embracing the right now with this right winger that has switched sides over to the Labour Party. And instead of a lot of a big chunk of the Labor Party kind of being like, yeah, we disagree with a lot of what she says. I mean, it's great that she came over. We have this extra vote. No, they didn't. They kind of, the propaganda has been ignore all of her right-wing politics and kind of embrace them, which is very frightening. But his prediction, though, is that this is Keir Starmer playing political games, and he thinks Keir Starmer is a hidden radical, which was really crazy for him to think Keir Starmer is going to be a hidden radical. But he thinks Keir Starmer is, once he gets in, he's going to start the process of undoing Brexit and doing some of these things that he's really avoiding and dancing around, and being far more left wing than what he's putting on. I don't think so. I think what we're seeing from the modern Labour Party is exactly what we saw in the early 2000s with the neoliberal party in the United States. There were cases of Democrats that were, blue dog, full corporatists, but then on top of that, they were also supporting abortion. And we saw the Democratic Party defend these people and embrace anti-abortion politics in their party to win. They started throwing away more and more of their leftist ideals to embrace the right in this attempt to chase the right-wing vote. Instead of getting more left-wingers, instead of getting young left-wingers into their party, there was more of an effort to try and get these right-wing moderates into their fold, using characters like Hillary Clinton, like Barack Obama. We all know why that one wasn't a big winner for the right-wing moderates. Hint, hint, he's a black guy. But it's a failed strategy that hasn't worked. And what has happened is we're now dealing with a neoliberal corporatist party that uses the language of the left to get into office, and then immediately once they get power, they enact right-wing legislation, very similar to what old school Republicans used to believe in. We see the DNC and other Democrats praise Ronald Reagan now, right? This shift, and that's what I'm worried about with Keir Starmer and the Labor left, is that they're not. This isn't some strategy to flip the script. This is them embracing right-wing ideology, because there's probably there might be a lot of them in there that maybe there's some donors or some people that they're connected to that don't want to see Brexit undone. Yada yada yada. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I hope UK politics is totally different from US politics, and it's a completely different dynamic. But I'm seeing, especially this latest defection and embracing her, instead of, coming out with a coach statement of like, well, we need the votes, we need the coalition, more the merrier, but X, Y, and Z, we disagree with this, we disagree with this. She's incredibly toxic, defending her husband who committed sexual assault against one of his employees. She's an incredibly toxic person. I can't remember her name at the moment. She'll come up in this, I'm sure. But she's incredibly toxic, and the Labor Party did not have a statement that says, we disagree with X, Y, and Z, but we appreciate your coming over to our party all the same, yada yada. They didn't do that. They played politics, and they defended her in a way, and they kind of avoided those nasty, I'm listening, when a reporter brought it up to one of the representatives of the Labor Party. I'm listening. That's really terrible. I'm listening. That kind of shit. Instead of saying, yes, it's wrong, no, it doesn't represent us, and let's move forward with, and let's not consider her views to be the Labor Party's views. They didn't say that, and that's troubling.
This week, after those storming local election results for the Labour Party, I'm looking at a lesson from history which contains both enormous reassurance but also a very serious warning for today's Labour Party. Let's begin this week with the local election results. The Conservatives down by 500 councillors or so, and Labour having that by-election win huge as well. And the Labour leader, avuncular, grey-haired, steely, sure of himself, but criticised by some people for not being radical enough. And yet there's this sense that the Tories have been in power so long, they have now definitively lost their reputation for economic competence after that terrible crisis, and they're tearing themselves apart again over Europe. Now, sharp-eared listeners might have spotted that I was not talking about Keir Starmer and the local elections of 2024 there, but about the late John Smith and the local elections of 1994, which took place just a week before he died suddenly of a heart attack at the age of 55.
Scandal.
Now, these days, the comparisons between John Smith, another grey-haired lawyer towards the centre of the party, and Keir Starmer aren't very much talked about. And that is, I suppose, because John Smith's time as leader of the Labour Party was only a couple of years, so brief, before his death, and so quickly overtaken by the arrival of Tony Blair and the new narrative of New Labour. But there are some really interesting parallels and I think one warning to look at here. Now, in many ways, today's Keir Starmer and yesterday's John Smith, although both grey-haired lawyers, could hardly have been more different. In terms of political personality, John Smith was a waspish, clubbable man who adored the House of Commons. He was convivial, hard drinking. He loved the gossip. He loved the intrigue. He loved all of the big parliamentary debates. And he was a superb, self-certain parliamentary performer at a time when Labour in those days didn't have very many of them.
The oldest trick in Tory politics. Promise one thing, do another. Didn't arrive with pollsters over the last year or two. It's been there. It's got a much longer and more distinguished ancestry than that.
Now, I think Keir Starmer, by contrast, loathes the silly theatricals of Prime Minister's questions and isn't at his best doing it. He is not a natural parliamentarian. He came late into
See, that's a shame because normies love theatrics. They love that shit.
Westminster, and I think he deeply dislikes the clubbiness and the intrigue and the drinking and all of that. But there is also a really important political difference because John Smith had a long, unbroken political tradition to lean back on, which he was very certain about, and it was the old Labour right-wing tradition of Dennis Healey and Jim Callaghan and later on Roy Hatton.
Wow. Can we get one more look at those eyebrows, please? Holy
Labour
shit.
right-wing tradition of Dennis Healey.
Fucking British politics, folks. God damn. God damn. God damn.
And Jim Callaghan and later on Roy Hattersley, into which he fitted perfectly. He was a pro-European, big state, high tax.
A lot of people like to watch my stream when they do something else. That's often why the chat gets a little quiet.
High-spending, traditional Labour right-winger. And after New Labour and Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, and then the Corbyn episode, I don't think Keir Starmer does have that kind of unbroken, self-certain tradition to lean into himself. So that is a really important distinction between the two men. But in many other ways, the parallels between the two men are uncanny. Both built their reputations and their parties' reputations in part by attacking and exposing previous economic failures by the Conservative Party.
Confronted with the sterling crisis of their own creation, we saw a government gripped by indecision, paralysed by fear, and a Prime Minister plodding on to disaster.
There's only one party that's crashed the economy, and they're sitting there.
We don't talk much these days about the sterling crisis of September 1992, the so-called Black Wednesday crisis.
The pound has fallen through its exchange rate floor. The Bank of England has thrown billions of pounds at the currency to try to save it, but in after-hours trading it has fallen still further.
You know, since then we've had the much bigger financial crisis of 2007, 2008, and of course the Truss moment and much else. And yet at the time it seemed an absolutely huge moment. I can remember being at a Liberal Democrat conference when the news of sterling's collapse from the ERM, the exchange rate mechanism, occurred. And we literally packed our bags and left the hall as Liberal Democrat speakers were on their feet and took the trains back down to London because this seemed an enormous national crisis, a moment of huge humiliation for the Conservatives after the Thatcher and early Major years. A really, really important moment indeed. And John Smith...
Oh, that Thatcherism coming home to roost there, huh? Oh, yeah. Don't you love it? Oh, they're so fiscally sound, these Conservatives, right? They're so... They know the markets, they know the economy.
And early Major years, a really, really important moment indeed. And John Smith exposed that failure in devastating attacks in the House of Commons day after day.
He is the devalued Prime Minister of a devalued government.
It was a period when Britain had much higher inflation and much, much lower growth, seem familiar, than France and Germany. and there was a sense that Britain's underlying economic weakness was being exposed, as of course it was later on in the later crises. So if you take Black Wednesday and you compare it to the Truss moment recently and look at the way Labour has exploited those two things, and if you also think that back then, after the Maastricht Treaty, there was a really intense Tory leadership feud going on, again exploited very amusingly by John Smith, and you compare that to what's going on in the Conservative Party right now, then you do not need a Dayglow highlighter pen to underline the similarities. Really, really striking.
If we were to offer this tale of events to the BBC Light Entertainment Department as a script for a programme, I think the producers of Yes Minister would have turned it down as hopelessly over the top.
Yo, how about the Yes Minister fucking reference, huh? Yo. Great show. If you haven't seen that shit, check it out. Yes Minister and then Yes Prime Minister. Oh, so good.
I think it might have even been too much, for some mothers do have them.
So, Smash, the comparison is the situation that the Tory party is in compared to when this guy was blowing up. I think that's the comparisons being made.
And there are cultural parallels too, I think. Like Keir Starmer, John Smith was more than a little contemptuous of what he regarded as metropolitan cultural chic and infantile ultra-leftism, and very much focused on the economic interests of British working-class voters.
All workers will be placed on an equal legal footing, part-time, full-time, temporary or permanent.
Hell yeah. There's
and
the
I think you can see the parallel there with Keir Starmer very clearly.
Fundamental rights from day one. Statutory sick pay for all. No more one-sided flexibility and no more fire and rehire.
Like Keir Starmer, he was a great supporter of the trade unions, and although I'll come on to this, he had been a bit of a tax and spender earlier on, by the time he was Labour leader, he was completely convinced that the route to liberating working-class people in Britain was economic growth. Let me read you what he said during the 1993 speech to the Trade Union Congress. Labour's economic strategy will ensure that all instruments of macroeconomic management, whether it concerns interest rates, exchange rates or levels of borrowing, will be geared to growth and rising employment. Now, David Ward, who was John Smith's head of policy more or less throughout his period as Shadow Chancellor and then leader of the Labour Party, makes the point that that sounds very, very like the Securonomics of Starmer and Rachel Reeves. And he is dead right. There are strong, strong parallels all the way through.
There is no viable growth strategy today which does not rest upon resilience for our national economy and security for working people.
And by this stage, you might be thinking, OK, fair enough. Here are the obvious parallels. A moderate, centrist, decent, respectable, not terribly exciting Labour leader taking Labour towards power, cut off by a heart attack. It's a sad parallel, but it's not a very complicated one, is it? But there is another aspect to the John Smith parallel, which I think needs to be thought about and is not entirely benign. Like so many of the old Labour right, he was an absolutely instinctive, moral, natural tax and spend man, a man who believed it was virtuous to tax more, who didn't, frankly, understand Middle England very well and didn't care about that either. And the most obvious example of that is his famous shadow budget of 1992. For those innocent days, it was a moment of extraordinary political theatre because John Smith behaved as if he was already the Chancellor. He had a big, big press conference. The entire national media, all the broadcasters came to it. And he stood in front of us waving these documents, which looked like official Treasury documents, and laid out Labour's tax and spend plans in some detail. And then he had himself...
That's that huge respect. That's how you do it. You come with the receipts, you come with the manifesto, you come with the policies, and you say, not only do I know it's better, I got the policy ready to go. You put me in charge, and you could start seeing the benefits of this right away. That's how you do it, man. That's politics.
Photographed on the steps of the Treasury with the Labour Treasury team, and it was really pushing his economic tanks onto Norman Lamont's lawn. It was a very, very extraordinary moment. But behind all the theatre, there was, as John Major, the Prime Minister at the time, later pointed out, £38 billion worth of extra spending in the document to be paid for, as Major said, by higher taxes for almost everybody.
They mean a whopping tax increase, not just for the rich, certainly for them, but a tax increase for each and every taxpayer.
Well, it wasn't for almost everybody, but it was for a lot of higher earners.
Yeah, he's been doing it since, You know, these guys have been doing it since before time. Okay. And it's a game that they're playing. It's a game that they're playing, you know, it's like Toy Story. The one thing we all agree on, whether we're fighting against each other or we disagree, the one thing that we agree on is that when the human walks in the room, we all pretend we're toys. And it's the same thing with us. As soon as the civilian walks in, we all pretend like we're lawmakers and we're having debates about democracy and liberty and free speech. And no, it's a fucking game. It's a game. Okay? They're players.
Increase for each and every taxpayer.
Well, it wasn't for almost everybody, but it was for a lot of higher earners. All this allowed the Conservatives to commission the very famous Saatchi and Saatchi poster, Labour's Tax Bombshell, which said that every family in the country would be paying £1,250 more in taxes if Labour won the election, which was just about to take place. And, of course, Neil Kinnock lost the 1992 election, and lots of people blame John Smith for that. Interestingly, Neil Kinnock himself doesn't.
The heroes of this campaign, wrote Lord McAlpine, were Sir David English, Sir Nicholas Lloyd, Calvin Mackenzie, and the other editors of the grander Tory press. Never in the past 9 elections have they come out so strongly in favour of the Conservatives.
And it is also true that before John Smith, the Conservatives constantly attacked Labour for wanting to tax and spend more. And after John Smith, the Conservatives constantly attacked Labour for wanting to tax and spend more. So it was part of a pattern. However, I think it's interesting that a lot of the people around Keir Starmer and around the Labour Treasury team today grew up politically during that period.
Wow, what the fuck? Whoa, dude. Go to the doctor, man. You got some swelling.
They were young at the time. They do remember the 1992 shadow budget. They do remember very vividly the 1992 general election. And I think a suspicion of tax and spend is ingrained inside them. Now, today, John Smith lies in one of the most beautiful cemeteries anywhere in the United Kingdom, on the so-called Holy Island of Iona of the Scottish West Coast, where he is washed by pure water, and the scent of thyme and heather and the Atlantic is all around in the air. And I think the message from beyond that grave is mostly very optimistic for Labour here in 2024 after storming local election results, actually much better than they were back in John Smith's day, and on the very lip, I think, of taking power again. And the most important message, perhaps, is that those old unfashionable traditional virtues of seriousness, moderation, respect and decency still are absolutely at the core of what the British public wants from their politicians today. I do think John Smith always understood that. I think Keir Starmer understands that. But there is a very, very important coda. Just because they admire those virtues and they admire people who have those qualities, that does not mean that the English electorate in particular wants to vote for higher taxes to pay for them. I find personally...
Yeah, and that's always, you know, I don't understand how the left allows this to happen. You know, the right, they'll get on media, they get in front of it and they say, you know, oh, they're gonna cost you more money, they're gonna cost you more money. And you know, oftentimes that's not the case, and those narratives they hold, and I you know, I get it, it's an uphill battle, especially when, you know, right-wing oligarchs own a big chunk of the media, but it just that's always been the case, isn't it? The lefties have always had a hard time defending raising the taxes on the rich, because defenders of the rich will often conflate those policies as, oh, they're raising your taxes, regular Joe. Oh yeah, it's on the rich, but also everyone else. That's a lie, and that narrative gets to prevail.
Electorate in particular wants to vote for higher taxes to pay for them. I find personally Rachel Reeves's absolute inflexibility about higher taxation or new ways to raise borrowing really, really frustrating. But then I think back to John Smith, and I think back to the 1992 shadow budget, and for all his decency, I suspect perhaps that Rachel Reeves understood something about John Smith I did not back then. And above all, in the end, it's the economy is stupid, and all the great parliamentary performances in the world cannot change that.
That's right. Yeah, no, and that's what the left in general needs to understand, is that, you know, it's the economy, it's the class issues, it's the fact that we can't pay our bills and we're having problems, day to day. Can't afford a house, for God's sakes. Can barely afford rent for a rat hole apartment in a lot of cases. And they want us to have families and all that. Yeah, Zio Duke, exactly. Yeah. So there you go. That's the UK stuff. Now we're jumping into everyone's favorite topic: Israel, Gaza. Yay! Great. Get your goalpost movers out, everyone. Everyone got their goalpost extractor and transporters ready. Kind of put the goalpost on wheels at this point. Have a rope. Pull that bitch around. I mean, the tax goes up for the rich, but also the rest. Not mentioning who the rest is, aka everyone owning more than 6 figures a year. Yeah, exactly. Strategy. Like, oh, that's not my definition of the rich. The semantic game I play with your lives. UK's an accursed instead of Ireland. That is decrepit course. That's great as a functioning economy. Are you Irish? You would have to be Irish, are you? DJ Shay. Until utopian galactic communism arrives. Look, the moment we get a real replicator, that's that British. Okay. That was the crux of the Star Wars shift, right? Was when the Vulcans, the aliens, had to come down and give us this tech. For sure, yeah. No, I believe in Irish unification. It seems like an inevitability at this point. So it's just like rip that Band-Aid off, remove yourself from the empire, declare independence, unify, and then and just start let's start the healing, because it's really about reversing the damage of the British Empire over the past centuries. All right. Okay. I don't support Hamas. Period. Okay. I feel like I just need to disclaimer this, because it's always like it's this game. I feel like I'm in like some kind of Japanese game show, some kind of weird guts style arena. I'm getting like Nerf balls fired at me. Oh, you're an anti-Semite. You're an anti-Semite. You're an anti-Semite.
Cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
I do not support Hamas. And a grand majority of the people that have been going to these protests don't support Hamas. When they hear a bad actor he's got all the signs of bad actorism. When they hear a bad actor, ask the crowd, do you admonish Hamas? Do you disagree with Hamas? And this person gets booed. It's not because the crowd supports Hamas. It's because the crowd is rejecting this idea that any support for Palestine is support for Hamas. Yes, Davey, the reason why this bad actor, Mr. Vice Grad, posts this, who, I believe posts pro-Russia stuff, right? I think we called them out in the past for that. So it's pretty clear the framing. What's happening here? Vice Grad, didn't they post pro-Russia propaganda? Or was that or these guys, they posting the Ukrainian war footage? Polish national. It was the pro-Ukrainian stuff. Okay. I was thinking of someone else then. Thank you for that correction. But the message is pretty clear here. The people booing this guy are booing because they support Hamas. That's why, because they're hearing criticism against Hamas, right? That's the framing that you want to accept from this, right? You want to, Davey, you want to embrace and accept the framing that the majority of the protesters that are showing up across America are doing it in support of Hamas. Yeah, sure. Sure, some of them are. But do you think a grand majority of them? Because Davey, this is you, man. Right? You don't you disagree with this, right? Judging a demonstration by its most violent participants. Hey, honey. Okay. So, I mean, we don't believe in the not majority. I think many are ignorant of what they are actually supporting. So once again, are you're so it's so funny. No, I don't conflate. So you're conflating supporting Palestine with supporting Hamas then. You think they're ignorant what they're actually supporting? What they are chanting is free Palestine. They may say pro-Hamas slogans without actually knowing what Hamas is. The river to the sea stuff, huh? Yeah, no. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy to me how you try to have it both ways. But no, I'll show you the clip here. The people in this audience, the people in this crowd are not booing this person because they support Hamas. It's ridiculous. They're booing this person because they disagree with the entire anti-free speech lie that supporting Palestine supports me, because they say, you know, they show pictures of pro-Palestinian protests, and then they go right to an expert to talk about how anti-Semitism is invading college campuses everywhere. Just totally lying. Like these people are out there because they hate Jewish people. It's a total lie. That's what these people are booing. This sly, coy, oh, well, they don't condemn Hamas. I don't see them out there chanting, I hate Hamas. With that said, I would like to see that. That'd be pretty cool. But this idea that because they're not chanting terrorism is bad, basically, because they're not chanting terrorism is bad, they believe that terrorism is good. It's a complete fucking lie. Come on, man. Well, you got to love the Russian shills. They're persistent. Well, they do get a paycheck, so they are persistent.
Issue. And while we condemn the Netanyahu government, let us also condemn the Hamas attacks on October the 7th. Let's also condemn the Hamas attacks, and let us remember the 7th.
Sorry, I know the kid was screaming there. We'll just start over from the beginning so you can hear what he's saying. And you can see what the crowd is not disgusted. It's okay. I mean, if you need a form. So you can see the crowd is disgusted with him, not because they're like, oh, I love Hamas. Oh, Hamas and my buddies. They're disgusted with his blatant attempt to conflate their support for human rights to support for a terrorist entity. And it's fucking insulting. That's what they're disgusted about. And that's why they're booing. Because it's a clear attempt. It's a clear attempt to conflate the two things. I mean, you guys don't support Hamas, right? Now, would I like to see them chanting "fuck Hamas" instead of "from the river to the sea"? Yes. They don't all chant "from the river to the sea." It's interesting to see. I've heard some reports of internally some conflict of people saying it's bad optics. We understand you're using a different context for it, but it doesn't matter. The bad actors are using this effectively against the movement. So it's interesting to see that, because when you talk to people who chant from the river to the sea, it's a pro human rights, pro working with Israel, working together kind of thing. And it's like, it doesn't matter what your recontextualization of it. the right-wing bad actors are successfully using that against you, you should probably avoid it. It's one of those things that the left-wing protesters, especially young left-wing protesters, have a really hard time doing. I remember when I was, marching against the Iraq War, there were "Death to America" chants, and it's like, guys, that's the wrong direction. That's, you're falling right into the hands of of the bad actors that want to paint a different picture of what we're out here to do. And of course, the people that were doing that represented a small extremist faction, that were very loud, but they didn't get the whole, crowd chanting "Death to America." But you bet you the news cameras were following right along.
And while we condemn the Netanyahu government, let us also condemn the Hamas attacks on October the 7th. Let's also condemn the Hamas attacks, and let's remember that those people.
It's not in support.
Resistance is justified. Resistance is justified.
So then they start chanting "resistance is justified," which it absolutely is. Yeah, but this is a problem with the left, right? And not having enough nuance with Hamas. It's not the best look, but once again, it's not exactly it's not supporting Hamas. But it's how do you resist this attempt to conflate resistance with terrorism? How do you do that successfully? It is a shame though that leftists can't just say "fuck Hamas" because they don't have the language to really explain why you don't want to support a theocratic, authoritarian nightmare terrorist organization like Hamas, even if they are putting up arms against the open-air prison of Gaza.
I think he takes the point, and it's.
That's interesting. I don't think this was a setup either. I think he was, it's interesting, Davey, and I thank you for posting this because I do think there's a little nuance here. It doesn't really seem like he's like a right-wing bad actor. Certainly has interesting taste in genes there. But hey, if you got it, might as well flaunt it. Like I said, I do think it would be great if the left who were out here, could articulate why it's okay. It's perfectly okay to support Palestine while also condemning Hamas. But that kind of articulation, that kind of nuance from regular individual protesters who are just outraged at what they see every day on TV or on the internet, that's really a kind of a fair bar. That's an unfair bar. I mean, it's an unfair bar to try and reach, because your average protester, your average person out there, they're going to be outraged. They're going to be emotional. They can't exactly explain every little nuance of the situation. Yeah, no problem, buddy. Yeah, no problem at all. Well, yeah, no biggie. Bye-bye. No problem, bud. If they had yelled "fuck Hamas" and "fuck Israel," this wouldn't have made it to Twitter. Yeah, I mean, like I said, but Davey, you do recognize that it is an anti-free speech, anti-protest technique to set a bar that is usually unachievable by most protest movements and saying, well, I would support their cause, but they don't reach this unachievable goal of having complete and total knowledge of the situation and nuance in the things that they're chanting. It's pretty ridiculous. It's a bar that no protest movement has set. Like I said, they're less. It's not about supporting Hamas. It's about the right-wing bad actor attempt to conflate resistance with terrorism in general. And I don't know. I don't think that's where this guy was coming from. Was those bad actor right-wingers that try to just ask questions. I think he was trying to say, Hamas is bad, right? Terrorism is bad. And I do believe it would be nice if the left had that ability, the people that were in the crowd and chanting had that ability to do that. But I do feel like that's a really unfair bar to hit, you know, for you know, people who are sick and tired of the dead kids, and to understand every little nuance. Especially when you have the IDF so consistently lying about what's actually happening there. Yeah, it's pretty confusing for people. Yeah. I still support protesting war crimes. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I think Leon posted this. Fuck left, right. I'm middle. I'm beacon of knowledge blazing out across the bottomless sea of ignorance. Wow. It's really cool that my chat is seemingly getting these like gimmick accounts, these weirdos that come in with like a weird little gimmick that they try in the chat. Yeah, spooky. I mean, that's true. Palestinians do have the right. You know what's interesting, and let me just go ahead and start off with this clip right here from Abby Martin. I was going to end the stream with this, but I think actually it'd be more appropriate to start the stream with this, because this will help clear up some of the mystery here about Hamas and about the Palestinians, and how, you know, this whole lie that there's no such thing as a good Palestinian, there's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian. You know, oh, they voted. Didn't you see the latest poll? 70% support for Hamas. There has been a concentrated effort to get Hamas into power, to keep him into power, and to prevent any resistance against Hamas, because, as I've said before, Hamas is the perfect boogeyman for Bibi Netanyahu. It's not insane. We have Haaretz reporting on this. There is a connection between Bibi Netanyahu and Hamas. The Palestinian version of Nelson Mandela, hey, I remembered that time. The Palestinian version of Nelson Mandela, incredibly popular with the people, who disagreed with Hamas and Hamas's tactics, was standing up for Hamas, was intentionally and proudly arrested by the IDF instead of propped up, instead of like, hey, alternative to Hamas, alternative to the hatred. He was silenced and shut up, allowing for Hamas to continue its 20-year reign of terror, anti-democratic reign of terror. What you're gonna hear is shocking. The man on the right is a raging lunatic who, he's one of these guys that does not believe in the existence of Palestine, that, you know, the Palestinians that were there before Israel showed up were the real occupiers. And what is Piers gonna do? He's gonna sit there in total fucking silence, like an embarrassing joke, and allow this person to spew straight up genocidal. I mean, and I use that word very, very lightly, because what we're seeing in Israel right now with Palestine is an ethnic cleansing. But this guy specifically is spewing genocidal language, i.e. destroy all Palestinians. There's no other way to put it. But the main reason why I want to show you this clip is that if given the chance, the Gazan citizens would gladly vote for and support an anti-Hamas alternative. And they had an opportunity, and Israel quickly and efficiently destroyed that. So to the people that are like criticizing the protesters and criticizing this call for human rights, please remember that a grand majority of the Gazans, or the Palestinians that live in Gaza, they just want peace. They just want to be left alone. The Palestinian Authority has time and time again accepted the 1967 borders, but also later. We must accept that Israel has been the largest impediment to real negotiations, that there's never been an acknowledgement of Palestine, that what we are seeing is the slow erasure of the Palestinian state. Full stop. Welcome back, Lenny. Lenny is, of course, the #1 financial contributor to the News Underground and Twitch's best streamer. Make sure you check out Lenny if you want entertaining content. Thank you, Lenny. Welcome back. It's your boy from south of Boston. So go ahead and watch this with me. This is 10 minutes. It will boil your blood, and it will give you a window into the kind of hatred that this guy has the same opinion as Ben-Gvir. And he probably would disagree with Bibi Netanyahu on a few things technically. I mean, when people say the extremist right-wing government of Bibi Netanyahu and Ben-Gvir, they're not kidding. They're extremists. They're extremely, extremely right-wing. And they're so craven about the propaganda and the gaslighting. Oh, we don't believe that. We don't believe this. We don't believe that. We don't believe this. What do you believe? Oh, well, we're not very clear on that. We're not going to tell you. Keeping the things that are most important to stay ambiguous. Anyway, get to it. This is amazing. Honestly, Piers Morgan should be ashamed of himself. I'm not saying you have to pick a side, but when you got a guy spewing this kind of hatred and you're just silently sitting there, I don't know if that's even journalism, folks. You tell me what you think. Let's watch it.
You know, Mossab is the Palestinian who hates Palestinians. He's developed a lucrative career being able to lie about basic facts about this conflict. He is actually credited to jailing the Palestinian Mandela, Marwan Barghouti. This is a guy who he put in prison 20 years ago, who was marching side by side with Israeli peace activists denouncing Hamas killing civilians. Marwan Barghouti is the most popular unifying figure in Palestinian society.
You hear this, Davey?
He would resoundingly win in an election against Hamas. So again, I mean, when we're looking at someone who's worked for Israeli intelligence, who spouts the same rhetoric as Israelis, who say Hamas, but what they really mean is all Palestinians, I mean, it's really hard to debate someone on the fundamental reality and the principles of, the facts of this conflict.
Lenny, the audio is only coming out of one speaker for some reason. Abby Martin was only on the left channel. So maybe your setup, your only right channel is enabled, maybe?
Well, this is Abby's...
Yeah, all the audio is coming out of the left channel for some reason. I don't know why that's the case.
A desperate attempt to discredit me. I am a man of the field. I fought against Hamas as part of legitimate intelligence organization, against savage group that were targeting civilians in suicide bombing attacks. Waves of suicide bombing attacks that they kill people indiscriminately. So Abby today want me for some reason to apologize for saving human life because my truth challenges her convenient truth. Abby does not have the authority. She's just a self-appointed low-grade journalist. How can you be a journalist and you call this a genocide, ethnic cleansing? And she just keep repeating ethnic cleansing, genocide, colonialism, etc. None of it is real, including Palestine. It's only in your head. None of it is existential. Palestine was never born. How can you free it?
And Piers he does this over and over again, and Piers just sits there. Like with the eyes of a crude doll, as Werner Herzog put in Conan O'Brien's new travel show. He's just got this dead fucking face on, man. You got anything to say to that?
It was never there. It's just a colonial entity, and some people choose to
Palestine.
Make it into a national identity. And this parrot has been just repeating Hamas propaganda. Marwan Barghouti that she's talking about him, she never met him. I knew Marwan before he got to power. He's a criminal. He killed 5 people. He has blood on his hands. He cheated on his wife.
Yeah, Dari.
He has a secret son that he never revealed it to the public. Of course, I can criticize him, and I can criticize all the criminals that I know personally. She's been there only for a visit, and maybe she had some falafel sandwich, and she really was blown away of the Palestinian experience. There is no such a thing as Palestine. It's about time to retire, find a different job. You're not a journalist. You don't qualify even to be a mother.
Wow. Abby.
Mossab, it's usually a public figure. If they were caught lying about half the things that they said, they would be completely discredited and never allowed airtime. You are spewing such ahistorical anti-Arab bigotry that not even the fringe of Israeli society would agree with you. I mean, not even Israeli historians agree.
I'm not anti-Arab. I am Arab. I am Arab. This is my ethnicity. Islam is just
anti-Muslim
a religion.
bigotry.
I am not a Muslim.
Mossab.
We are Arabs.
Mossab. Okay, then anti-Muslim bigotry, which is frankly appalling, considering that there's a billion people on the planet.
I'm a bigot against Muslims, damn it!
You as, you know, extremists who need to be used force against, according to you. But Mossab, not even Israeli historians would agree with the fact that you claim that there's no military occupation in the West Bank, that there's no apartheid state. Israelis at least admit, yes, those things exist, but here's why they're necessary and justified. They don't even agree with you.
Hooligan.
You're so fringe that I don't even know where you're coming from. I mean,
that's what's ironic is that he's like I said, Ben Gavirs of the world, the people that are top Israeli government officials basically agree with him, and they're basically making this argument that Palestine, oh yeah, that actually never existed. They're the real occupiers. We were there first. We're taking over the land that we already owned. You know, Palestine, Israel doesn't, this person doesn't represent the Israeli government views. Israel refuses to acknowledge the existence of the Palestinian state and gets all pissed off when the UN does it against their wishes. So tell me this guy doesn't reflect the extreme views of the Israeli government.
So again, if we can't even agree with the basic facts of the conflict and the reality in front of our eyes, I don't know how we can really even discuss this.
Yeah, because you don't qualify.
Well, I think the belittling her credentials. Listen, well, everyone's entitled to an opinion.
Piers, okay, Piers, you're such a coward.
Best case scenario, if there is an occupation, it's between Israel and Jordan, or it's between Israel and Egypt, because it was not an occupation of a country called Palestine. There was never Palestine in history. This is not an absurd statement. It's reality. Palestine never existed. It was not a country. It was not a nation. It's not an ethnic group. We are Arabs. We are the Arabs.
Would you believe that there's a mountain of evidence that would disagree with him?
Of Judea and Samaria. And when I was born, like millions of Palestinians, we had Jordanian birth certificate. The people of Gaza were Egyptian with Egyptian birth certificate. There was no Palestine. Yasser Arafat created this entity. And everybody believed him. And this lie must die. This is why I don't like what Abby and her likes doing by trying to delegitimize Israel. She's trying to discredit me. Who gave you the authority? How dare you?
You are a
I'm
spy.
Of that region.
You're
I'm
a spy for Israeli
conflict.
intelligence,
You don't. It is not funny. It's not funny. Your tale.
It's not funny at all.
No, it's fucking funny, dog.
It's not funny at all, Mossab.
Listen, Abby. You are bringing chaos to the United States, and you will be held accountable. You are just a criminal like them.
Sure. Okay, Mossab, you can't be taken seriously, and you're not legitimate because you are literally, you have worked for Israeli intelligence to out your own people. But listen,
sooner
but Mossab,
or later
you can't discredit my reality as well. You can't.
I mean, Piers Morgan once again just sitting there silently. He's the consequences. What? You like almost skirting right up to the line of a direct physical threat.
My reality as well. I was in the West Bank. I had assault rifles pointed at my head from a 17-year-old American from Palo Alto. That's an occupation.
You are in my domain right
That's a military occupation.
Okay, you are in my domain. When you come to my domain, you have to pay respect. You have to respect all the effort that I put to save human lives, and you cannot reduce that into some propaganda because
why on earth would I respect you for putting the leader of Fatah, Mossab? You put the most unifying, popular Palestinian figure. You are credited to putting him in prison. This is someone who would win an election against Hamas. He is a peace activist. He was fighting for a two-state solution. This isn't about Hamas, and you know it. This is about you shutting down, tamping down on all factions of Palestinian society. And let's be clear, what is Palestine supposed to do? What are Palestinians supposed to do when in 2018, thousands of Palestinians in Gaza marched peacefully to this fortified perimeter fence that Israeli snipers have authorized themselves to shoot to kill, and that's exactly what they did. They massacred over 200 peaceful demonstrators. Medics.
So Davey, once again, I want you to listen to this part here because once again, it's if the Palestinians had an option, they would choose peace. They want peace. This entire idea that the Palestinians and the Gazans specifically, they can't be dealt with. They're a type of next level heathen, next level barbarian. that they can't be negotiated with. The only option is to eradicate all of them, and it's justified to kill their kids and their women as well. It needs, this Palestinian exception is the thing that needs to be eradicated, quite frankly. Okay, and she talks about, and there's examples of if the Palestinians were actually, if a real democratic option were given to the Palestinians in Gaza, they would choose peace. They don't want revenge. They don't want rockets. They want death. They want their country, and they want to be left alone. That's what they want. And we see this. There's examples of this, of the Palestinian people trying desperately to get away from Hamas, to get away from this. It's good to note that, Hamas has been around for 20 years. The people that are the Palestinians that are currently there were children. A good majority of them were children who did not vote for Hamas 20 years ago.
The Palestinians in Gaza marched peacefully to this fortified perimeter fence that Israeli snipers have authorized themselves to shoot to kill, and that's exactly what they did. They massacred over 200 peaceful demonstrators, medics, press, journalists, clearly marked press, disabled people in wheelchairs, and children. These are all violations of international law and the Geneva Convention. Israeli snipers perched up behind sand dunes picked people off one by one in a methodical slaughter over the course of several months. That's when Palestinians tried to peacefully protest. So I think the question should be, what should Palestinians do? Because they're not even allowed to advocate for their legal rights. They're not even allowed to raise up a Palestinian flag. I visited a place called Sebastia in the occupied West Bank, and Palestinians were shot and in the hospital for simply erecting a Palestinian flag on a hilltop.
No, Clutch Cargo, no. That's a lie. And that's a total fucking lie. That's a both sides way to, oh, well, I guess it's got to end some way. Both sides disagree. No, it's a total fucking lie. When you look back at the history of negotiations, the Palestinian, and I literally just said this. God damn. It never fucking ends, and the cycle fucking continues. Great. Thanks for proving my fucking point for me, Clutch. Oh, well, the polls show that over 70% support Hamas. That the full justification for the idea that there's no innocent Palestinian. Jesus Christ, man. This idea that there's no path forward for the Palestinians, that they're brutes, that they're psychopaths, is totally ridiculous. The Palestinian Authority in prior negotiations agreed to a two-state solution on several different occasions. Blowback is real. 20 years ago, when Hamas was voted in, the people that we have now, the people that are getting polled, did not make that decision. They were children. No, Clutch Cargo, it's so fucking ignorant to say that there's no resolution to this, that the Palestinians are somehow an exceptional breed, incapable of peace. And the same thing for Israelis. Oh, that there's no peaceful way forward. It's one side eliminates the other, is what you're justifying with your apathy, with your laziness. Abby Martin literally talked about the motherfucking Nelson Mandela of Palestine, how people overwhelmingly supported the Nelson Mandela of Palestine. Overwhelmingly support. Oh, both sides, both sides.
This is a guy who he put in prison 20 years ago.
What do you say about this guy, huh? Literally, Abby Martin giving you the receipts, showing you the fucking proof.
Palestinians. He's developed a lucrative career being able to lie about basic facts about this conflict. He is actually credited to jailing the Palestinian Mandela, Marwan Barghouti. This is a guy who he put in prison 20 years ago.
Marwan Barghouti,
side by side with Israeli peace activists denouncing Hamas killing civilians. Marwan Barghouti is the most...
It's funny, Clutch Cargo, how you say both sides, but you're actually supporting one over the other. It's interesting. Oh, well, it's both sides. They're both kind of gross, but I guess we're just going to let one side dominate the other. They're both gross.
Popular unifying figure in Palestinian society. He would resoundingly win in an election.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I thought you were talking about fucking Palestinian Nelson Mandela here. Thank you for clarifying.
Israeli peace activists denouncing Hamas killing civilians. Marwan Barghouti is the most popular.
But look, here's evidence right here. That totally destroys your argument, though. Both sides, both sides. Okay, and we have a bad actor over here claiming to be from Gaza, spreading more fucking propaganda. I don't have time for it, man. The bad actors. Good God, look at that profile. No thanks. I'm from Gaza. Did you know all the people in Gaza are gross monsters who support murderers? I'm from Gaza. I should know. Okay, thanks, blatant propagandist. But no, Clutch Cargo, this flies directly in the face of your both sides argument. Here, the Palestinians were given an opportunity for peace, and they took it overwhelmingly, dying for it. A guy who criticized Hamas and their tactics, and they loved it.
Popular unifying figure in Palestinian society. He would resoundingly win in an election against Hamas. So again, I mean, when we're looking at someone who's worked this
idea that it's an exception for the Palestinians, they don't deserve it. No, because one side has successfully locked down the ability for real negotiations. Both sides are guilty. It's absurd.
Go out there and say Jews can't be trusted like you say about Muslims. I was erecting a Palestinian flag on a hilltop several days prior. This is the brutal reality of military occupation in the West Bank, Vasab. I mean, I want the violence to end. I empathize with the victims of both sides of this. And that's why I want to get to the root of the conflict. Yes, I don't go out there and say Jews can't be trusted like you say about Muslims. I empathize with all civilian life. I believe and cherish the sanctity of human life.
Before we talk about Palestinian state or whatever name you want to give it, that when we have a savage group,
I'm gonna go ahead and post the direct quote from your chat in the in the chat again. I'd say most people on both sides, most Palestinians, most Israelis have at this point given up on the idea of living next to each other. And I literally show you fucking evidence to your fucking face that destroys that argument. And you're like, well, both sides. Both sides. It's not both sides. There's a clear aggressor here. And quite frankly, if you did the same shit to Oklahoma, we would see eventually what we see now. A group of extremists, the only ones, who are putting up guns, It's like you put any human being in the situation that these Palestinians have been put in the Gaza Strip, and this is what you get. It's called blowback. It's what happens when you push humans into a corner, when you create an open air prison and you start throwing bombs in and squeezing them like a toothpaste tube. The Palestinians are not special, okay? They're human, and this is how human beings react to oppression. And it's not both sides. There's a clear fucking aggressor. Because it's essential to this fake argument, to this false argument, that if Israel were ever to give Palestinians their own state, were ever to acknowledge their existence, that Palestine would immediately arm up and get ready for an invasion into Israel. That it is an existential fight for Israel to destroy Palestine and, frankly, the Arab world. If you listen to these fucking freaks. Right? We can't acknowledge Palestine because Palestine equals Hamas. Hamas equals terrorism. If we acknowledge the existence of Palestine, then all you're doing is lighting the fuse to a ticking time bomb to the destruction of Israel. That's the argument that both sides defends. That's the argument that this fucking both sides argument defends. That Israel wouldn't dare allow Palestine to exist. Because of its own existential battle for existence. That's the mindset that the both sides argument defends.
The sanctity of human life.
Before we talk about Palestinian state or whatever name you want to give it, that when we have a savage group, Islamists, by the name of Allah, hijacking and using children as human shields, their own children, after killing Jewish children, then this is a capital crime. We cannot blind our eyes. We have to deal with priorities. First, we remove this savage group out of power. If Abi's intention was...
It's going to be fascinating when they complete this Rafah operation and Hamas clearly still exists. I don't know what's the next justification for why they're not going to leave. You know, it's all about the Rafah. It's all about getting rid of Hamas, the 4 battalions. So what happens when they claim that they're done and they, you know, they can't declare victory against Hamas? It's bizarre, man. I don't know what the fuck they're going to do, because this isn't about Hamas. This is about destroying the Palestinians. That's what this is about. And of course, it's just going to be fascinating to watch the justification slip like it's on a banana peel into the next shift, into the next goalpost shift.
We are pro-peace. Then this is our intention, that we should unify our efforts toward this main goal, first goal, priorities. Then after that, we can talk about the future. And this...
Clutch Cargo, you don't fucking get it, dude. You're dense. You don't fucking get it. You do not fucking get it, straight up. That you just literally, all that evidence, all the things I said just washed over you like a fucking ocean at the beach. You don't fucking get it, dude. You're a bit dense on this, quite frankly. Oh, but the polls. You don't fucking get it, man.
Criminal, you call Marwan Barghouti in Israeli prison.
How are you supposed to differentiate who is and who is not Hamas when Israeli authorities have literally called almost every entity in Gazan society Hamas, including UNRWA? They even are calling students...
Here's another point that you should ignore, Clutch Cargo. Open up your ears and, I don't know, turn off your brain, I guess. I don't know how you can listen to things and just not absorb them. But go ahead and ignore Abby's point here as well, please.
This criminal, you call Marwan Barghouti in Israeli prison.
How are you supposed to differentiate who is and who is not Hamas when Israeli authorities have literally called almost every entity in Gazan society Hamas?
I guess she hasn't seen the polls.
Including UNRWA. They even are calling students on college campuses Hamas. I mean, there's summary executions of doctors thrown in mass graves because they're called Hamas. So I'm sorry that this label has been rendered completely meaningless. And as far as the term human shields, look, there's been no evidence, according to Amnesty International, during Casled and the 2014 onslaught and today. I mean, there is absolutely no evidence provided that Hamas uses human shields, and that somehow justifies this heinous slaughter of predominantly women and children in Gaza.
Yeah, I disagree that the entire Palestinian that all Palestinians want the elimination of Israel. Like, it's just it's ridiculous when we have evidence to the contrary. When we have. And I spent the time to show you, literally fucking show you video evidence to the contrary. Oh, both pull the polls.
And even if they were literally standing behind hostages, you still can't just kill hundreds of people in a single airstrike because a Hamas commander is right there. And that's exactly what Israel is admittedly doing. Through AI, they're saying that they could kill up to 100 civilians for every Hamas official. It's absolutely outlandish.
Oh, well, all those things he didn't say. Okay. This is funny. Politics Joe over here. Politics Joe getting into it. Norman Finkelstein and Destiny. They get a whole 15 minutes out of it. One poll of the Gazan citizens does not justify any of this. And I'm not saying that's what Clutch Cargo is saying. I'm not really even sure what Clutch Cargo is saying by pointing out if you don't believe if that's not what you're saying, you know what I mean? Then yeah, I guess I don't know what the fuck you're saying. Because when people say, "Oh, well, the polls show Palestinians support Hamas," what they're saying is, "Well, Israel is justified in its ethnic cleansing. It's an existential fight for their existence." That's what that is implying. You don't get to just say that without, I don't have an agenda. I'm not trying to push aside, but there was this one poll. How come this poll is more important and powerful than the support for the Palestinian Nelson Mandela that was immediately scooped up by the IDF? Why is that a more powerful statement than the other one? Here you have this guy, wants peace, criticizes Hamas, the IDF removes him, but the poll after the massive bombing campaign, a poll taken about Hamas. Do you support Hamas? I do agree, though. I mean, stop with the Hamas support, right? I get both of it, you know, because like, check this out, Clutch Cargo. If you were unjustly kept in a prison, which is what the Palestinians in Gaza, and I think you acknowledge that. If the Palestinians in Gaza, if you were unjustly kept in a prison, and you know, and a bunch of neo-Nazis fucked up some of the guards in your prison, would you be like, if someone said, hey, you know, how about those neo-Nazis fucking up your prison guards? Would you be like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, violence is bad. You know what I mean, Clutch Cargo? Do you see what I'm saying there? Like, if you were in a prison and a bunch of skinheads fucked up the prison guard, that prison guard's been beating your ass and spitting in your food and fucking your life up, making your life miserable, right? And then the skinheads go and fuck up the guards. And then someone comes up to you and says, hey, what do you think about that? You're like, oh, well, violence is bad. Is that really going to be your opinion? You know, it's complicated. And it just, you know, just glibly pointing out that, oh, well, both sides want the extermination because look at this poll. That glosses over the reality of the situation. That if these people, these human beings, if they were given the opportunity for peace and coexistence, they would absolutely take it. And there's lots of evidence to support that. Surely, Clutch Cargo, there's a more of a justification for the Palestinians' radicalization, right? That this does have a beginning. Of course, this began in the 1940s with the extremist Zionist movement invading Palestine to claim it as its own. Surely there's more of a justification for the Palestinian society to become more radicalized in response to that, right, Clutch Cargo? Okay, Woke Patriot. Yeah. No, I think I see where he means. I think I see where Clutch is going. I apologize for calling you dense. Because yes, if that's your ultimate message, that radicalization of both sides is bad. Yes, okay, I agree. Of course, I agree with that. But we're not just talking about a nebulous radicalization. We're talking about cause and effect here. You invade another country, you occupy it, you commit a Nakba. No, Father Dari, shut up. You're stirring shit. No, I mean, yeah, no, of course, that's a statement no one can disagree with. Radicalization is bad, and it leads to violence, and it leads to one side wanting to eradicate the other. Yes. Very base statement. Okay, if that's what the statement was made, okay. Who was the name of the guy who got jailed, please? 1 second. Pull that up for you here.
Look, you've recently appeared on all kinds.
You know, Muslim.
Yeah, because I want to get this guy's name correct as well.
Killing civilians. Marwan Barghouti is the most.
Marwan Barghouti. Here, and I recommend subscribing. Smash. I recommend subscribing to the Empire Files. Abby Martin is great. Her audio mixing is trash. Abby Martin, hire me. Your audio mixing is total garbage. Hire me, baby. That's sexist. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I do that to everybody. Sorry. But no, Abby Martin, you're great. Ignore that sexism earlier. You're great. Please hire me. Fix your audio mixing. Marwan Barghouti. Yeah, Corwin indeed. All right, Clutch Cargo, I apologize. Looks like I was getting your comment wrong. Thank you, Woke Patriot, for helping me. More reason for Palestinian radicalization? Obviously, yes, but the radicals always find their reasons. That's how we get here. Yeah, and you know, the Bibi Netanyahu feeding Hamas encouraging that radicalization, allowing that radicalization to fester, needs to be called out, needs to be acknowledged. And thank you, Clutch, for acknowledging the radicalization extremism of the Israeli right, which is something bad actors don't do. So getting more into the protests here, you know, I knew, you know, starting this off, I knew we had to talk about the protests because it's this battle, right? It's this battle. Oh, these people don't represent Palestinians. They represent terrorism. Immediately, that's the narrative. We see it during Occupy. We saw it during the BLM protests. We really got to find a better name for those protests because it really wasn't about BLM. It was about George Floyd and how black people are treated by police. But it happened, it happened during the Vietnam protests. Immediately, the motivations of the protesters, the people that are compelled to come out, a grand majority of them compelled to come out to defend human rights. Their motivations impinged, questioned and twisted, propagandized. Only one side shown. And all of it is an effort to destroy the ability to protest. All of it is in the effort to remove the ability to challenge the government on its policies in this way. The reason why they want to clamp down on it is that it works, as Clutch Cargo likes to remind us. It works. That's why they're so swift about it. They're so quick with the crackdowns because they know it works. It's happening over here. Dutch PM, Gaza protesters, quote, clearly over the line, 32 arrested in Amsterdam. And I got to say, looking at the footage, definitely it's hard to defend this kind of stuff. You know, the fire hydrants, you know. What I would like to say is that this kind of protesting becomes inevitable as the state continues to refuse to listen. And this kind of stuff, you know, it would be best to avoid it. It would be really best to not have to do this kind of stuff. But it's inevitable. It's inevitable that protesters will resort to desperate measures when the overbearing violence of the state becomes untenable. The country is still sore from BLM and Capitol Hill, so another wave of protests will soon risk creating a pattern of what? Dissent against the empire? Dissent against Joe Biden's failed knee-jerk defense of Israeli extremists? Amsterdam is always a bigger pro-Israeli presence. Uric did not have that much presence as the pro-Israeli camp, which is why the protest was not becoming as violent, as well as people not feeling the need to act as forcefully. Interesting. That's why they respond in fear. Exactly. Gotta go take a bath and do some reading. Thanks, AM, for the stream and the educating content. Hey, Smash, you're the best. Thank you so much. I appreciate your patience. Broadly, I call for an immediate ceasefire abroad, UN-led and multinational force secure peace and Israeli withdrawal from Gaza and ensure. Yeah, exactly. Clutch Cargo. Exactly. And that, that can only happen with pressure from the West. But yeah, technocratic government to get in there, allow the Palestinian civilians to vote. And I guarantee you, dude, you give the Palestinians an opportunity to vote for peace, they will vote for peace. Go ahead and put eradicate Israel on the ballot and watch that shit lose. Spray a fire hydrant is assault because it can and will cause. Yeah, okay. When a fast food place need. No, I mean, like I said, I don't really defend this action here. What I will say, and that there was a person who said this about the slave revolts in the United States, is that this kind of violence is deplorable, but we told you so. This is the kind of stuff that desperate people engage in when their government refuses to listen, and instead of listening, they respond with violence. So when the people are demanding that their government respect human rights, and the state says it cracks you over the head with the billy club, as we see here in a couple seconds, we'll see this guy holding his hand up, getting cracked with the billy club. So when the state responds this way, people get desperate, and they do desperate things. See right here with the billy club right here. That's real wood on bone, son. That's real wood on bone. That hurts like a bitch. with that said, yeah, you know, the property damage stuff, it's not good. Like I said, though, no matter how nonviolent you want your left-wing movement to be, violence will be brought to it, and the left-wing movement will have to defend itself. If it's fire hydrant versus billy club, I pick the people who are using the umbrellas and the fire hydrants instead of the people swinging the billy clubs and cracking heads. It's the state that creates the violent situation, that escalates it to this level. We must remember that. We cannot allow bad actors, pro-empire bad actors, to gaslight us into thinking that protesting is bad. Remember the BLM riots, as some still like to call it, even though 90% of them were totally peaceful. Not a single McDonald's got burnt up. Doesn't matter. And what have we seen? What have we seen from that? Oh, well, all protesting is rioting. Thought I would give credit. There's a lot of colleges right now that should be ashamed of themselves. I thought I would give credit to this college who is honoring the death of Rachel Corrie, an early hero in the fight for Palestinian liberation, for the acknowledgement of the Palestinians as a legitimate entity. Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington, becomes the first university in the U.S. to fully divest from Israel. This was Rachel Corrie's school. Congratulations, Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington, for honoring Rachel Corrie's memory. If you don't know who Rachel Corrie was an American peace activist, was killed when Israeli soldiers crushed her with a bulldozer. She was trying to prevent the demolition of a Palestinian family's home. She literally put her body between a Palestinian family's home and an Israeli bulldozer, and the bulldozer brutally, like a horror movie, crushed her to death. It was a big scandal at the time. People forgot about it. Thankfully, though, Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington has not forgotten about it, and I just once again like to say thank you for honoring this absolute hero of human rights who talked the talk and walked the walk and put her body in between oppression and human rights and paid the ultimate price for it, and we shouldn't forget that. Thank you, Rachel Corrie. Well, they certainly produced some heroes there. If Rachel Corrie decided that was going to be her school. Just more news here. Nearly 700 Jewish professors call on Biden not to sign controversial anti-Semitism legislation. So this is a really good one here. I guess, is that all my protest stuff? No, not really. I got some more protest stuff coming up. So stick around for that. I don't know why I split it up this way. Sorry about that. But this is really big. So, you know, Mr. I'm a Zionist. You know, I totally agree. I like, please Bibi, I'm a cuck for Bibi, and please Bibi, don't ruin my election. Meanwhile, Bibi Netanyahu is like, fuck you, I want Donald Trump. I don't want to work with you. I'm going to ruin your chances. I'm going to spit in your face. I'm going to disagree with you every chance I get. They're trying to pass. It's really frightening what happened. There was I believe this passed the House, but it was a bill called the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, basically making it illegal to criticize Israel. Just a full-blown attack on free speech. And of course, what does a legislation like this open the door for? It's fucking Pandora's box. Oh, well, we got a law in the books that says you're not allowed to criticize Israel. Well, now guess what? We got a law in the books that says you're not allowed to criticize Donald Trump. And if you think that's extreme, how petty is Donald Trump? If there's a law in the books that says you cannot, you American citizen, it's illegal for you to criticize XYZ, we think it's just going to stop with one entity? A group of nearly 700 Jewish college faculty signed a letter to President Biden. These are 700 Jewish college faculty signed a letter to President Biden on Wednesday, encouraging him not to back the controversial Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. This is not about anti-Semitism. This is about free speech. The academics took issue with the act's use of the International Holocaust Awareness Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism. And you bet that that definition is absurdly broad. Absurdly broad. They would consider me a full-blown neo-Nazi, which has raised concerns that legitimate criticisms of the state of Israel could be seen as anti-Semitic under the bill. Frighteningly, the bill easily passed the House last week, though 21 Republicans and 70 Democrats voted against it. That's it. That's it. The rest of them think Israel should run your life, I guess. Bibi Netanyahu should have the ability to tell you what you can and can't say. A fucking thought crime. With many voicing the same concerns as the faculty, quote, criticism of the state of Israel, the Israeli government, policies of the Israeli government, or Zionist ideology is not, in and of itself, anti-Semitic, the letter to Biden and Senate leaders reads. Okay? Don't let the gaslighters tell you otherwise. Don't let the gaslighters tell you otherwise.
Cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
Quote, we accordingly urge our political leaders to reject any effort to codify into federal law a definition of anti-Semitism that conflates anti-Semitism with criticism of the state of Israel. It continues, by using the IHRA definition in federal law, the letter claims the bill could, quote, delegitimize and silence Jewish Americans, among others, who advocate for Palestinian human rights or otherwise criticize Israeli politics or policies. So it'll clamp down on everyone, Jews and everyone. It's ironic. It's ironically an anti-Semitic, anti-free speech bill. Thank you, Strategy, for the text of the bill there. If you want to see the frightening reality happening, I talked about it earlier. This is how the Pandora's box opening. This is your liberties getting stripped. How absurd! You're in a Denny's, getting your Grand Slam. The waitress hears you talk shit on Bibi Netanyahu, and 5 minutes later, the fucking cops are rolling up. That's the scenario that these fucking people want to create. Oh, absurd. It can't happen here. Absurd. It can't happen here. It just fucking happened. It passed in the House, on its way to the Senate. Oh, yeah, I don't think Bibi Netanyahu has the right strategy here. I think, his prior support of Hamas, I read this article from Haaretz about how Bibi Netanyahu supports, was in the past supported Hamas. Waitress over here. He's criticizing Israel. You think that's crazy, huh? It can't happen here. Oh, how absurd. What a hyperbolic scenario. Wow. I mean, I guess your ass has to get hauled away. Like what? Israel can defend itself. Israel can defend itself. What do you mean? I believe Israel can defend itself. I thought this was America. Yeah. It used to be America. So the Israeli gaslighters, grifters, defenders are really running out of steam and really embarrassing themselves out here. Wait till you see this. Report here from Novara Media. Piers Morgan leaves Israeli spokesperson speechless. So I was shitting on Piers Morgan earlier. He's quite a mixed bag, this Piers. Shitting on Piers earlier for allowing this extremist to say, oh, Palestine, that doesn't even exist. It's offensive that you would even say it. Sits there in silence while this guy has, speaks genocidal language. Well, here's Piers showing that he actually does know how to push back on that shit. I guess he just didn't want to seem like he was defending Abby Martin. Heaven forbid. But no, Piers Morgan actually does know how to push back. Here's a great example of it. Leaving this Israeli shill actually speechless. Oh, good for Kyle. I'm glad he's still covering this. Zio Duke, if you're still subscribed to Kyle, I had to drop him a while back. I just got sick of it. Has Kyle come out and criticized Sagar Enginetti yet? His wife's co-host on Breaking Points? Unrepentant, shameless, pro-January 6th, Sagar Enginetti. Has Kyle Kulinski ever come out over any of the shit that Sagar Anjanini has said in the last 5 to 10 years? 5 years? When I unsubscribed from Breaking Points, it was when Sagar Anjanetti said the children being forced to wear masks during COVID was more dangerous for their mental health than gun violence. That's when I clicked unsubscribe. Has Kyle Kulinski come out and criticized Sagar Anjanetti for anything? Oh, he does that's too, they're going too hard against the January 6th. Too hard. The prosecution's too hard. He's doing that, pearl clutching. But no, when I clicked unsubscribe, he was saying children having to wear masks during COVID was more emotionally damaging than the gun violence. So unless I was really, I had my own reasons to drop Kyle Kulinski, but I would resubscribe to Kyle Kulinski if he comes out and says, does a video, I don't like Sagar Anjanetti, I disagree with him. I hate how close he is, man. Him and Crystal, too fucking close to that bad actor. He's a bad actor and a liar. And he cloaks right-wing fascism with a veneer of academics, and he tries to legitimize the fascism. Motherfucker's still going to be voting for Trump. Even all of his little back and forth with Crystal, he's still voting Trump. No, man. I kick that motherfucker to the curb. Get Kyle up there. Get Sagar off your fucking show. Get Kyle up there. That's a real that's kind of an echo chamber, isn't it? Nah.
According to Gaza's health ministry, 34,000 people have so far been killed in Israel's assault on Gaza. In previous wars, the health ministry's figures have proved to be remarkably accurate, yet Israeli officials have repeatedly dismissed them. They either say they're made up or that they know a huge proportion of the dead are what they call Hamas terrorists. It's always been an unpersuasive argument from the Israelis. But speaking to Israeli spokesperson Avi Hyman, Piers Morgan, expertly, I think, demonstrated how their position is also completely incoherent.
Out of that Hamas number that you just gave, more than 14,000 are terrorists that we took out. There's more than 25,000 Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists taken off the
How many
back.
civilians do you believe you've killed?
We don't have exact figures, as you know, it's the fog of war.
But you've got exact numbers for Hamas terrorists you've killed. Why wouldn't you know how many civilians you've killed?
Because obviously our focus is to go after the Hamas terrorists. And
hang on, that does imply that you're putting a bigger premium on killing Hamas.
So, Corwin, are you saying it's very possible that the number is actually much higher? Or are you saying that ambiguity only means that the number obviously must be much lower?
As terrorists in terms of numbers and accountability than you are on innocent civilians. That can't be right, surely. If you know exactly how many Hamas terrorists you've killed, you must know how many civilians you've killed.
That's a fair
Otherwise,
point.
you're prioritizing the lives of terrorists over innocent people.
Piers, with respect, don't put words into my mouth, please. I didn't say exactly 14,000. I said around 14,000. Whereas Hamas will come out with precise numbers that statisticians
give me
will look
a
at.
ballpark number for civilians.
Well, you can use the ballpark as far as the.
Corwin, no, it's not impossible to know. It's not actually impossible to know a general idea of the death count. Now, it's very possible it's higher than what has been reported, but it's not impossible to get somewhat trustworthy numbers out of these battlefields. No, that's not impossible.
Hamas figures, which I reject as being false.
That was really, really strange, a really embarrassing position for Avi Hyman to be in, right? He starts by saying the Hamas figures are false. Then he says that Israel has killed 14,000 so-called Hamas terrorists. But Piers Morgan then completely corners him, right? If Israel knows how many terrorists they think they've killed, surely they should know how many civilians they've killed at the same time.
Right.
And Hyman then appears to tell Piers Morgan that to work out that, he should just use the Hamas figures, even though he says they're false. It doesn't make any sense, completely incoherent.
Cute.
Let's go back to the clip as Piers Morgan didn't let Hyman get away with that line.
Well, if they're false, why would you give me those?
I gave you the numbers that I had.
No, you told me you know how many Hamas terrorists you've killed, but you don't seem to have any idea how many civilians you've killed. I'm just bemused. Why wouldn't you keep count of both?
I don't have that information to give you, Piers. If I did, I would.
You've literally no idea how many civilians you've been killing.
Yeah, and the reason why they can't acknowledge a civilian death count is that they need to keep it nebulous. That it allows them to kind of continue along with this moral justification of what they're doing. If they refuse to acknowledge any of the numbers, and then of course don't post their own numbers, well, I don't know what the numbers are. They could be anything, higher, lower. I don't know. It's messaging for normies, because unlike you, the people in the chat, and me here, they're not digging into things. They're not going past that surface level. This does successfully confuse a lot of people into saying, well, maybe the damage is not as bad as what the lefties are saying. Maybe it is hyperbolic nonsense from hippie lefties.
I'm just bemused. Why wouldn't you keep count of both?
I don't have that information to give you, Piers. If I did, I would.
You've literally no idea how many civilians you've been killing.
I can tell you definitively that our aim is to go after Hamas.
No,
We've done it successfully.
I'm sorry to push you on this.
Hang on.
That's quite extraordinary. You're an official spokesman for the Israeli government, and you have no idea how many civilians you've killed. I thought you just told me that you were particularly careful about not killing civilians. But if you don't know how many you've killed, how can you say that with any certainty?
Because even if you were to go by a ratio of the Hamas figures, we would still be far ahead of any Western army. That wasn't my
question. You know it wasn't my question.
I don't have the information.
Well, you literally have no idea how many civilians you've killed.
It's not that I don't know. I'm not authorized to give the information. I don't have the information.
That's complete nonsense. Why are you authorized to give me the number of terrorists you've killed, but not a number of civilians? I don't understand. Can you explain?
Piers, we will go after Hamas. We will ensure that we.
But you want me to believe you're being incredibly careful about how many civilians you're killing, and you have an amazing exemplary record, but you don't know how many civilians you're killing. So how do I know you've been careful?
Piers, when the dust settles, we will come out with the proper numbers.
Now, I've seen a lot of Israeli spokespeople be.
And it's a classic bad actor tech. We see empires do this all the time. Don't worry, big bad, bad PR, something bad happens, right? Oh, don't worry, we're investigating ourselves. We'll get back to you. We're not going to acknowledge the existence of this. Maybe we did it, maybe we didn't do it. Oh, I don't know, but we're definitely looking into it, and we're going to get back to you. 6-7 months goes down, we're talking about something else completely. Almost as a non sequitur, they'll come out. Oh, by the way, the end of that investigation found out we weren't guilty. We didn't do it. Yep. I hope that clears up any questions that you might have had 7 months ago when the questions were relevant. But yeah, it turns out we actually had nothing to do with that bad thing that we obviously did. And we're just going to go ahead and move on from it. There's going to be no justice, no explanation, no transparency. We did our own investigation. We're innocent. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. That's how it works. That's why they, oh, we're not going to acknowledge it. We're not going to acknowledge it. If you want to see the rest of this great Navarro Media clip, go ahead and check it out here. Navarro Media is excellent. Make sure you check them out, folks. Doing a great job covering this story here. So, of course, one thing I should have probably covered this at the beginning, but big news, that it looks like what we reported on a couple days ago, we weren't 100% sure if, because there was this report, breaking news, I believe it was either Davey or Strategy Member posting in the chat, hey, there's a weapon shipment that's getting paused. There was some confusion about the motivation, and I was really frustrated with the neoliberals because I'm like, are you serious? Here's an opportunity to carrot and stick Israel, and it's some kind of procedural error? No, it looks like it was intentional, that this is definitely, a signal that's being sent, a really, really loud signal, a fucking, presidential interview, one-on-one presidential interview. We're talking about the guy who doesn't even do the fireside chats anymore, the bully pulpit gathering dust, but big enough for him to get in front of a camera and a microphone. So we're going to watch a clip from this. I did say I was going to show the whole interview. I don't think I have time, but pretty clear signaling here. Carrot and stick. Biden doesn't want to do this. Biden desperately wants to support Zionism, I guess. He desperately wants to support Israel, but he's in a rock and a hard place. He's seeing the numbers. It absolutely is affecting his re-election chances. It definitely hurts him. It just overall looks bad. Just all the protesting, all of it, and the fact that Bibi is cucking him in real time. Yada yada yada. So let's go ahead and get his comments on this. But yes, for the first time since the Reagan era, seemingly, the United States has paused it's probably a very small little shipment. And there's this process where they review whether Israel is breaking human rights with our weapons. That investigation, or that yearly or whatever, there's a check every so often, that has been put on hold because they really don't want to do this. They really want to get those weapons sent. And I guarantee you, when the dust is settled, when Israel has finished its Rafah operation, whatever finished means, right, the weapons will start to flow again. The moment it's no longer a PR disaster for Biden to send those weapons, the tap will be opened up immediately. Let's not forget that. Get a clip here. Come on. Come on. All right, hold on. Let me just go to CNN.com here. Sorry, guys. It's called journalism, okay? I'm a professional. Leave me alone. Don't you make fun of me, okay? High production values. This is what you're here for. Come on, video. Please, for the love of God, load. Please, 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 please load. Please. Thank you. Professional operation, folks. Shut up. Okay, please don't do an advertisement. Please, please don't. Please don't try to sell me bleach.
I want to ask you about something happening as we sit here and speak, and that, of course, is Israel is striking Rafah. I know that you have paused, Mr. President, shipments of 2,000-pound U.S. bombs to Israel due to concern that they could be used in any offensive on Rafah.
Corwin, we're going to start this over again. Corwin asks a good question. The question is, what does peace really look like? Sadly, I think that looks like a police state for Palestine, cameras, cell phones, and spies, making sure Hamas can never again gather in the numbers in Gaza. So look, if you want to fix terrorism, you have to fix the elements that create terrorism: bad economy, no education, hopelessness. Basically all the scenario that Israel is creating with its blockade on Gaza. Preventing Palestine from representing itself as a state, ensuring that there's constant chaos. And yes, we have proof of Bibi Netanyahu supporting Hamas. It's not outlandish. So Corwin, the solution to defeating Hamas is not with a bomb or a gun. It's with stability. It's with a strong middle class. It's with happy families and college educations. That's how you defeat Hamas. Ironically, that's, of course, the one thing Israeli government refuses to do, right? Because that would require acknowledging Palestinians as human beings. It would require a Palestinian state. It would require doing something about the settlements and the obvious land grab and how illegal that is. All things that Israel refuses, without a doubt, to put on the table. Okay? You want to defeat Hamas, create a happy middle class for the Palestinian people. Treat them like human beings. So it's, I believe in human rights except for the Palestinians, so sorry.
I want to ask you
I don't support Hamas.
About something happening as we sit here and speak, and that, of course, is Israel is striking Rafah. I know that you have paused, Mr. President, shipments of 2,000-pound U.S. bombs to Israel due to concern that they could be used in any offensive on Rafah. Have those bombs, those powerful 2,000-pound bombs, been used to kill civilians in Gaza?
Civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence.
It would require enforcement, and the UN, the solution that you talk about would require enforcement on Israel and Palestinians. And that's the problem, is that Israel would start, firing missiles at NATO and completely disagreeing with, or at the UN or anybody, if Israel were militarily, or internationally being forced to do anything. And that's what makes the knee-jerk support from the UK and from the United States so fucking embarrassing. This idea that we're doing this because Israel is a military satellite and it's the only democracy, and we're using this to extend the Western Empire. It's a total fucking joke. It's about to not be a democracy.
So those bombs and other ways in which they go after population centers. And I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet.
Yes, they have.
Rafah,
lie. Isn't that great? Isn't that cute how he just lies with his eyes open, like he's holding your hand and telling you the most sincere information you've ever heard in your life, and he lies right to your fucking face without flinching, without a single twitch, without a single bit of shame. Are you kidding me? They've completely occupied Eastern Rafah and are now marching right down the border as he was saying these things.
If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with that problem. We're going to continue to make sure Israel is secure in terms of Iron Dome and their ability to respond to attacks like came out of the
offensive weapon,
Middle East recently. But it's just wrong. We're not going to supply the weapons and the artillery shells used that have been used.
Artillery shells as well.
Yeah, artillery shells.
So, just to understand what they're doing right now in Rafah, is that not going into Rafah as you define it yet?
They haven't gone into the population centers. What they did is right on the border, and it's causing problems with right now in terms of with Egypt, which I've worked very hard to make sure we have a relationship
from the very beginning.
And help, but I've made it clear to Bibi and the War Cabinet they're not going to get our support if, in fact, they go in these population centers.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be easy, but it doesn't matter about how difficult it is. There's no motivation to do it. That's the real crux of this, is that the entire two-state solution, seemingly from the very beginning, has been nothing but buying time for allowing the settlers to steal as much land as possible, confusing this, and then of course Bibi rather intelligently creating a boogeyman and helping foster and fester this extremist element in the West, in the Gaza Strip, and then they come through, man. What was Hamas other than a present gift wrap for Bibi Netanyahu and his corrupt presidency? I don't know if that's true. Israel is threatening. I mean, are they threatening war? So let me show you this clip. This might be the clip you're referencing. This is the clip that the AP shamelessly did not show in their little compilation. But watch Israeli ambassador to the UN using a paper shredder to shred the UN charter on the podium of the UN General Assembly ahead of a vote that will give new privileges to the Palestinians at the UN. So isn't that just the peak of hypocrisy, right? This entity that will pull out all the stops and remind you Palestine doesn't acknowledge Israel's existence. Palestine doesn't, it's terrible. It's a crime. Can you believe it? These monsters, these barbarians. Here this guy is shredding the charter of the international body that he's speaking at the gesture of acknowledging a Palestinian state. Do we think this body is interested in a two-state solution, into some kind of negotiation, even knowing everything we know about Bibi Netanyahu and the fact that he's proud of the fact that he's destroyed discussion around the two-state solution? No one really mentions that, do they? Aaron Burnett, when she brings up two-state, CNN brings up two-state solution. They never bring up the fact that Bibi Netanyahu is like, not only is he destroying the two-state solution, he brags about it. He brags about it. So here's Israel spitting in the face of international law.
This is...
Wow.
You are shredding the UN Charter with your own hands.
Right. So the acknowledging Palestine as a state is equivalent to supporting October 7th. That says it all, right? That there's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian, that everyone in Palestine is Hamas, and that, knee-jerk reaction, 1 + 1 = 2, right? If you support Palestine, you support terrorism.
Yes, that's what you're doing. Shredding the UN Charter. Shame on you.
So, great move, Israel. I'm sure that, we'll see how that plays out. Cotton. Yeah, where did he even get a charter that size? Okay, I'm officially out of time. Thank God we were able to cover Ukraine here, but I wanted to show these final clips here of the protesters, and Democracy Now! Already covered this. This is an amazing clip: a standing ovation for USC valedictorian and cheers for her resistance to genocide minor today at the USC Student Awards ceremony. Just as a quick, addendum here, I don't believe what's happening in Israel-Palestine is technically a genocide, but I do think that technically that doesn't really fucking matter, and that young people will often not use the correct terminology for things, even if they're from college, even if they're graduating from college. Technically, what we're seeing right now is an ethnic cleansing, but does that really matter?
Asna Tabasum.
Maybe Samorium. Yeah, it's hard to imagine, Trump giving Israel giving Israel his blessing and saying fuck him up, finish the job, and seeing how that's going to lead to a more peaceful Middle East. Really hard to imagine that.
Molecular and cellular.
Yeah. So she's really smart, valedictorian, and she does not support Israel's ethnic cleansing of Palestine, even if she's not getting the term correct. Doesn't really matter. Yeah. Okay. I think I'll show that clip. We just said we're gonna show that one last. Thank you, Woke Patriot, for this clip. I'm sure there's the only reason you're showing this clip is because you were inspired by these women and their solidarity with human rights. I'm sure that's the only reason why you had this clip of these wonderful women supporting Palestine in their own way. Yeah, they got it. Really great stuff. Awesome. Love it. And once again, this is all it takes. You could look how fun following the 3-step program is. Step 1, inform yourself. Step 2, join a progressive political organization organizing this, right? Yeah, you signed up for the newsletter. You got the email. And then step 3, you showed up and you had a great time. You stood up for human rights. You let your government know that you're not going to stand for this shit. You became part of the movement. You got to double down, show up every time. That's how we win. Join the Illuminati. Yes. Coming Antifa Super Soldier today. Get your chip installed. Where would Antifa operate? Some kind of fucking coffee shop? All right, so here is, thank you, Woke Patriot, once again for this clip, because I would have missed this. But I am constantly criticizing big streamers like Destiny, who has in the past done canvassing and has in the past, encouraged support of neoliberals, but successful leftist streamers like Bosch and Destiny and Hassan, who extract millions of dollars in some cases from their audience and contribute next to nothing towards the progressive or leftist movements that they claim to support. And Destiny, of course, is questionable about his support for leftism in general. But here we see Hassan overwhelmed with emotion, getting his ass off the couch, telling his audience, come out here, using his influence to support the progressive movement on the ground, the real shit, not the social media activism, but the real activism. Encouraging his audience to join him, his incredibly young and impressionable audience. Fighting against this narrative that he's just a champagne socialist. Good on you, Hassan. Thank you for following my 3-step program. I hope this is the beginning of something much bigger. I hope this, because what we kind of saw something similar during Occupy with TYT, ironically, coming out, fully embracing it, then slowly backing away from it instead of doubling down. But, it was really encouraging and nice to see TYT support of Occupy. But hopefully this is the start of something bigger. Hopefully Hassan understands that if we want to create real change, we got to put up and shut up. We got to rock up, stop the bullshit, stop the excuses, and we got to get our ass out in the streets. So here's Hassan. Thank you once again, Hassan. Multimillionaire, popular leftist streamer, 10K viewers average, getting out in the streets, showing people how it's done.
All right. And that's it, folks. Lolo, you got some final words after that? It's going to be hard to follow.
I don't know.
Watch out.
Sorry. It's very inspiring to be here.
And kids like this. They like this shit. I don't know what to say.
I don't know.
Kids like this shit.
I don't know.
Don't zoom up on his face, dude.
He got close.
Listen.
He got close.
Listen. This is what it's about, okay? Fuck all the haters. Fuck all the naysayers. This right here is what it's about. Do you understand?
Woke Patriot, I do not appreciate you telling people to do that in my chat. Please do not do that in the future. Thank you, Woke Patriot.
And there's gonna be, in life, there's gonna be people that say, fuck you, you're wrong. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. As long as you know that your cause is just.
I understand that.
Keep pushing.
TOS.
And that's
Jeff
it.
Bezos.
I would have never imagined this much of a fucking crowd at a college campus anywhere in solidarity with the Palestinians in my whole fucking life. I never would have ever thought I would see this day. And I didn't stop advancing. I did not stop advocating for the cause. And now I don't feel lonely.
I know Woke didn't mean it either.
I don't feel as lonely anymore. And that's because of you guys. That's because of you in the chat. That's because of all of these people out here that are putting their bodies on the line, that are putting their careers on the line, that are facing possible doxing, facing assault, facing being brutally fucking arrested for doing what is right.
Right.
So I hope that you can continue advocating for the right things. All right?
He's pretty goddamn rusty. He's really not. It's like we need these people to be leaders of man. We need them to shamelessly take the reins. We got the cult of personality. It's very popular. The kiddies love him. Okay, you can tell how rusty he is at this. Okay, and quite honestly, I don't see it yet. Because you should have been up on a podium. You should have been Alex Jones in it. You know what I mean? When Alex Jones shows up to his speech, he's got the bullhorn. He's leading the march. And yes, the left does need to emulate the right when it comes to that. But good for you, Hassan. But this, honestly, it feels like a one-day thing, doesn't it? He probably went right back to his little penthouse, did some more video game stuff, right? Sit your ass down. You're a millionaire. Send one of your fans to Costco to pick up a bunch of bread and peanut butter and jelly. Sit your ass down and start making food for everybody. Buy a couple cases of water and start distributing that. Spend some of your money. Spend all of your time, quite frankly, Hassan, right here. That's the next step. Okay? You got your feet wet. You dipped your toes in. Okay? I love to see it. But, this at the end, the ending here, he's all on his phone. Look, you got to be on your phone if you're a Twitch streamer because of the chat and whatnot. But you got your
fucking
feet
arrested for doing what is right.
Next step.
So I hope.
Okay. Get the next step. which is sit your ass down, start really contributing to this.
All right. Love you all.
You know, but honestly, it feels like he ended the stream and then went back to his penthouse. And yes, I know Woke Patriot didn't mean that. I have to enforce that stuff in my TOS or my ass will get banned. You're way off about Hassan. Okay, I hope so. I hope that's the case, that he is living there, because what he needs to do is he needs to live there. He needs to sit his ass down and start spending some of this incredible wealth that he gets that he got during this stream. I assume this was going into a charity. I assume all of this money that he earned during this time when he was there was going towards the protest movement in some way. But this is the next step to becoming a real leader. And we're going to need people like Hassan to become a real leader. Yeah, look, I got to be careful with the TOS. And, you know, the bad actors will use, oh, you see, look, he said he encouraged that in my chat. He encouraged it in my chat. Right. All right, folks. There's my baby. I got to go. My baby's a-crying, and I got to go check on her. That's all I have time for today. Big props to strategy member Yanni. I don't know if welcome Yanni. Boris Johnson. Oh my God, disgusting. Thank you, Woke Patriot, for all your contributions in the Discord and all of your wonderful discussions in the chat. Big props to your boy Clutch Cargo. Who's Clutch Cargo? He's someone you should like and subscribe to and follow. He's a good sport, and he's a bit of a punching bag today. Sorry, Clutch Cargo, about that. But thank you for your opinions, and thank you for standing up for yourself. Big props to your boy Corwin. Thank you, Corwin. Big props to the #1 Twitch streamer on Twitch, Lenny. I'm the realest motherfucker on Twitch. Lenny is the best motherfucker on Twitch when it comes to content. AccidentsWaitingToHappen.com. Get on it. Thank you to your boy Zeo Duke. Big props to Zeo Duke. Consistent, coming in every stream. I do appreciate you, Zeo Duke. Thank you. Big props. Thank you to all you followers, all you lurkers. Thank you to all you lurkers. Every view is valuable to me. Ice King of Space, you're the best. Thank you, Ice King of Space. Big props to you, Ice King. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to Ice King of Space, folks. Once again, big props to you, Clutch Cargo. Thanks again, Clutch Cargo, for being a good sport. You were the punching bag today. Father Dari represent. Thank you, Father Dari, for coming in. Big props. Never mind. What are you talking about? Never mind. It's an unmade bio for Twitch, filling it in before anything is added. Oh, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. What are you talking about? Let's see. Who else deserves props? Who else deserves props here? Strategy member, of course. Strategy member, thank you so much for all of your hard work. The Illuminati are looking out for you, strategy member. Watch out. You're now a member of the Illuminati. Big props to Smash. Thank you, Smash. She had to go, but thank you, Smash, for coming in, being consistent. Appreciate you guys enjoying the News Underground. The realest motherfucking place for real news on Twitch, easily bar none. Big props to Chem Goblin, our friend over there from the Ukraine. Thank you, Chem Goblin, for coming in. Big props. Hope you're staying safe, Chem Goblin. Big props to your boy, Davey. Thank you, Davey. Wonderful links in the Discord. I see those links. Thank you, Davey. Once again, thank you to everybody in the Discord. Big props to DJ Shay. DJ Shay stuck around for quite a bit. Thank you, DJ Shay, for coming in. Lovely comments. Thank you so much for your opinions on the UK. And yeah, don't forget, you could be a member of the News Underground. Stop on by our Discord. Right there. If you want to contribute to the News Underground, we got a Discord right there where I get the show ready. We get the clips ready. Talk about this shit. Hey, DJ Shay stuck around. Yo, DJ Shay. Hell yeah. Thank you so much, DJ Shay, for sticking around. I do appreciate it. Thank you. Look, I know it's a dense show, information-heavy show. You put it on, you go do something else. I get it. You know, you're not in that chat 24/7. It's the view. It's the view that's the most valuable. So thank you so much for that view. Big props. Big props to you, the lurkers, everybody out there throwing me on. You got a million other things to do, but you're keeping me on there. Thank you. Big props. Peace in that motherfucking Middle East. Glory to Ukrainian democracy. And once again, it's that 3-step program. Step 1, inform yourself. Step 2, join a progressive political organization, a union, support a politician, whatever it is, put your name down. And then step 3, put in the work like Charlie Kirk. You got to put in the work like Charlie Kirk. You got to put in the work like Steve Bannon. You got to double down, dude. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every motherfucking day. on the weekends. Sun up, sun down. These fascists are working to destroy our country and take away our liberties, and we got to meet them at the gates. We got to fight them with that same energy. This is the News Underground. Thank you, everybody. Peace in that motherfucking Middle East. News Underground, bitch. I'm abandoned nihilism, a.k.a. the Harbinger. See you next time. Tomorrow, actually. We're going to do it tomorrow. Big stream, Saturday. Love you, babies. News Underground, motherfuckers. Brought to you by Garbage Fuel. Yo, Lenny will be here. I still got it. I still got it. Still got it. Still got it. Still got it. Got it. Peace the fuck out, yo.